What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto killed stuffed in a suit? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. So let's start the story. Naruto Uzumaki. A person with a hard life known. But what if something from another universe was in Konoha and changed his life long before he ended up in the academy? We shall now see how he fares with certain animatronics impacting his life. This is the Ninja Chronicles. It was October 10, 3 years after the Kyuubi attack in Konoha, and as usual the local fox hunt was going on. A small blonde-haired kid with deep blue eyes in ragged clothing ran dodging some kunai and makeshift weapons like a wooden pole with the tip sharpened into a spear. The young child didn't understand why they always hated him. He hadn't even done anything to them. He ducked and saw a sword had just missed his head. As he passed the thrown weapon he grabbed the hilt and started to deflect on instinct the weapons before he spotted what looked like an old building that he shot into and heard the mob chasing him stop. He turned around and saw that the mob was looking at the place in fear and glee. Everyone but young Naruto knew of the building, having been there since before Konoha was founded. Even Madara and the first Hokage stated that the place was off limits. Legend had it that they had sent a scout into the building at night and the ninja was never heard from again. Ever since 6 nights a week the place was sealed to prevent whatever was inside to never escape. It was just their luck that it was Sunday, the day off of the demon of the building. It took a translator to make sense of the sign, so Ninja knew that the place was home to what they called the Fazbear Frights demon. The mob made an agreement to stake out the place for the next week to see if the Kyuubi brat would die at this other demon's hands. I hope you enjoy this last week demon because you're going to be trapped in there for 7 days, there is no escape, said one of the Uchiha in the mob with a cruel laugh. Starting tomorrow your 7 nights in hell begins, added a certain white-haired Chunin. The 3-year-old was nervous at these words and with sword in hand entered the building more and ran until he got to some kind of office. With a whimper he took a fast look. It was pretty bare with a desk, a fan, a box full of masks, a musical instrument, a hook and what looked like a puppet's arm. There was also 2 screens and a set of clothes. Changing into the purple shirt and blue jeans with the purple cap, the child saw it was more fit for an adult and tied the excess to fit him. He sat in the chair with his sword on the desk and fell into a troubled sleep. The next morning he was awoken by a ringing and found a device that wasn't on the desk last night and pressed a button not knowing it was a voice call button. Hello, hello? Oh good, you answered, kid. What are you doing in here? Don't you know how dangerous this place is? Strange things happen here during the night, said a voice from the device, making the kid jump. I don't really have a choice in the matter. I was chased in here last night by a mob. They have the place surrounded and are waiting for me to go out there. They said they were going to trap me here for a full week, said the child, scared. Well, that explains what you're doing here. Guess it falls to me to explain things to you and help you survive. See, outside it may seem like 7 days will go by, but in here time is in flux. A week out of the building is 3 weeks inside. You're going to see what I mean by flux. Haven't you noticed the office around you had changed, said the voice. It was then the child noticed that indeed the office had changed. It did seem as bare, but now there were 2 vents on both sides and the desk was now in the middle of the room facing an open hallway. Added to the desk was a bare mask with the box from last night has vanished. Now that you mention it, what happened? Asked the child. Each week in here the layout changes for specific events in the past. If you see any other humans besides you in there, they're not real, but some will help you survive with me. You're going to be aided by the memory of the location's important person. His name is Jeremy Fitzgerald. He will help you through the nights of the first week. Since he's actually dead, the threats from this time period will be focusing on you. Trust his guidance for the first 6 nights. You may call me Phone Guy. It's what I was called when I was at this era long ago. Yes, I'm dead, but now I can try and keep you from dying like I did. You will get some messages recorded from me at night which will give you advice to survive. During the day the area is safe, so I take this time to get something to eat. You have until midnight until you have to start trying to survive. Maybe you can learn more about what happened here and help me pass on, finally said the now revealed Phone Guy. My name's Naruto and thanks in advance. So any info on this time frame I should know about? Asked Naruto. Yeah, you're back when this place's history began, the year 1987. The whole curse started here for this. It started with 5 missing kids. No one knew what happened to them, so that's a good place to investigate and start. I was also just informed of your time and what is going to happen. If you manage to last the first week, some of your past opponents will become allies in the next incarnation, so I will explain more on that tomorrow morning. If you interact with who would be most likely be the missing kids, you might get some insight on what happened. With time in flux like this, they might be able to give you clues to solving what happened and freeing not just me but also the other lives lost here. Be warned, as since this already happened, you won't be able to change events during the day. You're going to have to watch events as they happened, said Phone Guy seriously. Thanks, Phone Guy, talk to you tomorrow, nodded Naruto. Jeremy Fitzgerald will appear around 11 o'clock, so be back in the office by then, said Phone Guy before the phone clicked, showing the phone call was ended. With a deep breath, Naruto found a sheath for the sword and tied it to his back as he exited the office and found himself in a dining room set up for a party. He noticed on the stage was 3 animalistic beings that were looking like those ninja puppets he heard about from Suna. One resembled a bird with yellow feathers and had a pink garment and a bib that said "Let's party" with a feminine shape. Her own blue eyes almost looked alive. On her right and at the center stage was a large rounded brown bear in a top hat. On his right and stage left to Naruto was a blue rabbit with green eyes holding the red guitar from the box. All 3 had colored circles. The males had red while the female had a lighter shade. It looked like a party was going on as there was various kids playing, but Naruto noticed 5 of them in a corner watching. Naruto guessed they were the 5 kids mentioned. He walked over to them. "Hello, their name's Naruto," he said, and took a look at the 5. One of them was a red-haired boy with amber eyes in a red vest over a white shirt and tan pants. Another wore glasses with purple hair and had crimson eyes, dressed in a blue button-up shirt and purple jeans. The lone female had purple eyes and similar blonde hair, dressed in a faded yellow dress and orange stockings. The last 2 were identical with different colored hair telling them apart. They wore brown shirts and had black bow ties as well as blue jeans. "You must be new. I'm Andrew," said the red-haired boy. "Sunny is my name," said the female. "Jack," nodded the purple-haired kid. "And these 2 are the twins, Frederick and Max," nodded Andrew to the silent twins. "So who are those 3 and what are they?" asked Naruto, looking at the beings on the stage playing music. "They're animatronics, robots designed for entertainment. The blue bunny is called Toy Bonnie, nicknamed Bon Bon. He's the guitarist of the group. The yellow chicken is Toy Chica or Kai and is a backup singer. The leader is Toy Freddy, nicknamed Fred, who's the front of the band. There are 2 other animatronics, but one is currently being destroyed by some of the other kids. They like to take her apart and rebuild her into a mess. She used to be known as Toy Foxy but recently became known as the Mangle. She's a white fox normally. They are supposed to be new generation animatronics, as the original Freddy, Bonnie and Chica plus Foxy are dismantled and shut down. The last animatronic is known by 2 names. The puppet or marionette," explained Jack, raising his glasses. "So any word about anyone going missing? I've been hearing a rumor that some kids went missing," said Naruto, making it sound as if it was normal for where he was. Jack and his 4 friends jerked and gave Naruto looks. They motioned him to follow them. Once in an empty room, they sat at a table and motioned Naruto to sit. "Should have known you were the one who is in the time flux. We can't reveal what happened as you got to figure it out yourself. But we can give you some hints," said Sunny. "First is that the mini-games here can help tell you what you need," said Andrew. "Second is that as you're the one going through this, you're basically taking the place of the main character at night and will be seen as that character," said Jack. "Third is that after a few days you won't get to see us during certain times," said Sunny. "And lastly, beware the one named Springtrap," said the twins grimly. "Thanks for the clues and advice. Do you know who will become my allies next week?" asked Naruto, curious. "You asked us about them. The animatronics. The building itself is giving you a bit more of a fair chance due to your age. Think of this as a test of adapting to changing situations," said Sunny. "Good thing about a time flux is that you can eat food here to keep yourself alive, but during the final week you won't be able to eat. The place is a horror museum and you won't be able to find food there. Same rules from this week applies to next week. You get allies from the opponents you face if you survive the full 6 days. Sundays are days off to recover from the week and where you can meet the next guide," said Jack. "Good to know. Phone Guy will give me advice on how to survive the nights with my guides." I promise I will find out what happened and free the trapped souls, said Naruto. The five smiled. We wish you luck. There's some pizza and a drink in the security office plus something you're going to need, said Sunny, giving Naruto a hug, and the five left as Naruto went back to his office but heard a metallic groan and looked around and winced seeing a white fox with a metal skeleton with parts strewn around. You must be Mangle. Guess I know how you're feeling right now. You're reminding me of some recent memories I have. You're lonely, aren't you? Just like me. I don't have any friends at all. I don't even know my family. My own town thinks I'm a demon. But I have no idea why. I just don't understand why they hate me, said Naruto as he found a toolbox and started to work on the animatronic, not knowing what he was doing until the static of the white machine cleared up. My voice, thank you, and I do understand where you're coming from. No one seemed to care about me once it got too much of a hassle to repair me every day. I will walk you through the rest of repairing me, said Mangle. She did just that and soon was heading to parts and storage and turned to Naruto, who was putting away the tools. Child, thank you for the help. If you need someone to talk to, just find me, said Mangle no Toy Foxy. Mind if I call you Vixen? Then Mangle nor Toy Foxy just doesn't seem right, smiled Naruto. Sure later, child, said the renamed Vixen as she left to locate her missing parts of her suit. Naruto went to the office and found a box of pizza and a glass of juice alongside a scroll. A ring sounded and Naruto pressed the same button as before. Naruto, you are just surprising. You didn't interfere with events as it was getting close to closing time. I think you managed to gain an ally already in Mangle. Or as you know her as Vixen. Anyway, I managed to locate the only other person who ended up in your situation with the ability to use chakra. He agreed to send you some items to help you survive. The scroll is to teach you how to access chakra. Unlike you, he didn't make it. Got as far as week 3, said Phone Guy. That's not reassuring, Phone Guy, said Naruto. Sorry, but the final opponent was persistent. At least with these you're having a better chance. Jeremy is going to be there in 5 hours, so practice and get some rest a bit, said Phone Guy, making Naruto frown as he knew that things get harder from the longer he's stuck. So with that he started to study and thanked the old man for teaching him to read. 3 hours later he finished with the hand signs when he noticed Vixen had entered. Naruto, what are you still doing here? You should be at home, asked Vixen. Guess it can't hurt to tell you, but see, the thing is, started Naruto before telling her his situation. So let me get this straight, you're from a future and trapped here in a time flux and have to survive 3 weeks, with each week being a specific point in the place's history, and through your actions with me have allowed me to become aware of this? If this is a joke, I'm not laughing, said Vixen. It's no joke, Vixen, this is really happening. Naruto has to get through this in order to return home. At this point of time to you I'm still alive, but I died in 1993 by the repaired withered animatronics. They stuffed me into a suit. My spirit is trapped here and Naruto is my best bet on moving on, said Phone Guy seriously. What happened to me? Asked Vixen, staring at the phone. After you were tampered with, you bit off a kid's frontal lobe. The place was shut down and you and the other toy animatronics were scrapped to repair the withered animatronics for Naruto's next week. Added to the 5 missing kids, you can see why the building is cursed, said Phone Guy. And apparently since I befriended you, you're going to be aware of the flux at night, while during the day you're stuck in the memory of the place, said Naruto. Not exactly. Vixen here is now separate from events, so during the day her original timeline self is there in her place. Only you would be able to see her at that time. It will be the same for the others next week. It's the place's way of keeping events as they happened. I got to go, my message is about to happen as Jeremy is now walking to the office, said Phone Guy. With that a click sounded as a orange-haired man in the uniform walked in. Hey there, I'm Jeremy Fitzgerald, your guide this week. As for the night shift, you're going to be stuck in my form to the others. Now be warned, the first night is relatively simple, but as you thought it will get harder, said Jeremy, standing to the side. And with that the phone rang. Hello? Hello. Hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I'm here to talk you through some of the things you can expect to see during your first week here and to help you get started down this new and exciting career path. Now I want you to forget anything you may have heard about the old location, you know. Some people still have a somewhat negative impression of the company. That old restaurant was kinda left to rot for quite a while. But I want to reassure you, Fazbear Entertainment is committed to family fun, and above all, safety. They spent a small fortune on these new animatronics, facial recognition, advanced mobility. They even let them walk around during the day, Isn't that neat? But most importantly, they're all tied into some kind of criminal database, so they can detect a predator a mile away. Hey, we should be paying them to guard you. Now that being said, no new system is without its kinks. You're only the second guard to work at that location. The first guy finished his week, but complained about conditions. We switched him over to the day shift, so, hey. Lucky you, right? Mainly he expressed concern that certain characters seemed to move around at night, and even attempted to get into his office. Now, from what we know, that should be impossible. That restaurant should be the safest place on Earth. So while our engineers don't really have an explanation for this, the working theory is that the robots were never given a proper night mode, so when it gets quiet, they think they're in the wrong room, so then they go and try to find where the people are, in which case, that's your office. So, our temporary solution is this. There's a music box over by the prize counter, and is rigged to be wound up remotely, so just every once in a while, switch over to the prize counter video feed and wind it up for a few seconds. It doesn't seem to affect all the animatronics, but it does affect one of them. And as for the rest of them, we have an even easier solution. You see, there may be a minor glitch in the system. Something about robots seeing you as an endoskeleton without its costume on, and wanting to stuff you into a suit. So hey, we've given you an empty Freddy Fazbear head. Problem solved. You can put it on anytime, and leave it on as for long as you want. Eventually anything that wandered in will wander back out. Something else worth mentioning, is kind of the quirky modern design of the building. You may have noticed there are no doors for you to close. But hey, you have a light, and even though your flashlight can run out of power, the building cannot, so don't worry about the place going dark. Well, I think that's it. You should be golden. Otherwise, put on the Freddy head, if you need to. Keep the music box wound up, piece of cake. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. With that the message ended and Naruto turned to look at Jeremy. This week is in summer? It's October back home. To me the day before yesterday was my 3rd birthday. Now I see why that mask is here, said Naruto doing as the message said in winding up the music box. Really, when's your birthday? Asked Jeremy. The 10th, said Naruto. So back out of the building you're getting out at the 17th of October. Right, we better make sure you survive, said Jeremy as Naruto wore the mask. Vixen was just confused. A glitch? Oh man, no proper night mode must be a nightmare for us, said Vixen slumping to the wall. Thanks to Naruto's size the mask allowed him to keep watch on the cameras while still wearing it. Jeremy said that he had to alternate there. Naruto also checked the vents and hallway but it seemed it would be a quiet night when Bonbon arrived and left after seeing the mask. After that 6 chimes sounded and before Vixen's eyes Jeremy faded from sight. Shaking she had proof that Naruto had told her the truth. Giving her a sad look he hugged her. Good job there Naruto and Vixen, don't worry, things will work out. You're not going to be scrapped now. The mangle during the day will. Get some rest for now Naruto, I will brief Vixen on what will happen, said Phone Guy as he chimed in. That's right, you're going to be with me next week with the other toys in 1993, but what did the 5 mean about the minigames? Asked Naruto when one of the TVs turned on and the tablet he was holding turned its screen into a controller. It said give cake. This is why looks like the diner there, you have to move Freddy to give cake to the kids. Maybe the games tell us what happened in this place, said Phone Guy. With that Naruto played and grew worried when a kid outside the diner was approached by a purple figure and the game glitches when the kid was killed. Afterwards the screen shut off and Naruto had the surveillance back. My god, said Vixen as horrified as Naruto. That must be the reason the diner closed. That must have been when the whole thing started. We just witnessed the first life taken by the murderer, said Phone Guy as disturbed as the other two. He looked a bit like one of the guards. He had a badge on him, said Vixen. That must have been why no one caught him. The only one who saw was Freddy. This explains the aggression to night guards the withered animatronics have, said Vixen as she realized what it was. He wasn't really purple, it was his clothes, said Naruto. But that still has nothing on what happened with the bite, said Phone Guy. But now we have some information. And with my current clothes I'm not sure it's a good idea. The ones I wore are too damaged, said Naruto. That means it really is important to keep you alive, said Vixen seriously. And so started the second day of the challenge. All day Naruto and Vixen saw that phone guy was right, another mangle was there, and Vixen seemed to pass through the memory like a ghost. It was unnerving. Naruto ate some breakfast and met up with Jack and the twins as Sunny and Andrew played on arcade machine. "Naruto, what's wrong, you look spooked?" asked Jack. "You were right, the minigames did explain a bit. I got the give cake one this morning. I learned a kid was killed right outside the diner and that the killer was dressed as a night guard. This explains the aggression some of the animatronics have during the night," said Naruto. "There's 3 more minigames there. And you're going to get a bit of footage from 1993 just before the next night shift. That's all I can say. I think it's best if you only come out for food as the animatronics are giving you odd looks," said Jack. Naruto snuck a look, pretending to look at the paper plate figure on the wall. They were giving him odd looks. "Must be the facial recognition technology, they can't locate me in the database as technically I don't exist yet," said Naruto in a whisper. "Makes sense, good luck," said Jack as Naruto nodded and left to the office. He found another scroll, this time on sword techniques, so he can learn to use his sword. He spent that time studying when Vixen returned and looked over his shoulder. "Interesting, I noticed the sword but didn't say anything," said the white fox. "Well, I'm training to be a ninja once I'm back home. I want to become the leader of my village one day. So far I'm starting earlier than most my age. The normal age to start training is 5, said Naruto. Soon though the screen turned on, catching the two's attention. It showed the next location and the camera turned with a world to look at a purple Bonnie with red eyes and then to a purple-eyed Chica. It panned back to the center and static as it shut off. Jeremy immediately reappeared and looked disturbed. "Phone guy filled me in on what you found out. And things are definitely not as they seem. I caught that video. Things definitely are not as they seem," said Jeremy. "What I'm scared of is that Jack and Sunny, 2 of the missing kids, have the same coloration as Bonnie and Chica. Yellow and purple, purple and red. I think we got another clue about what happened," said Naruto. "Hair and eyes compared to suit and eyes, I noticed that as well," said Vixen. Hello? See, I told you your first night wouldn't be a problem. You're a natural. By now I'm sure you've noticed the older models sitting in the back room. Those are from the previous location, and we just use them for parts now. The idea at first was to repair them. They even started retrofitting them with some of the newer technology. But they were just so ugly, you know? And the smell, so the company decided to just go in a whole new direction, and make them super kid-friendly. Those older ones shouldn't be able to walk around, but if they do, the whole Freddy head trick should work on them too. So, whatever. I loved those old characters. Did you ever see Foxy the Pirate? Oh wait. Foxy. Oh yeah, Foxy. Hey listen. That one was always a bit twitchy. I'm not sure if the Freddy head trick will work on, if for some reason he activates during the night, and you see him standing at the far end of the hall. Just flash your light at him from time to time. Those older models would always get disoriented with bright lights. You'd call it a system restart or something. Come to think of it, you might want to try that in any room where something undesirable might be. It might hold them in place for a few seconds. That glitch might have carried over to the newer models too. One more thing, don't forget the music box. I'll be honest, I never liked that puppet thing. It's always thinking that it can go anywhere. I don't think a Freddy mask will fool it. So just don't forget the music box. Anyway, I'm sure it won't be a problem. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Man, marionette is creepy, and good thing I can still use the sword in case, said Naruto, doing as said. Soon after he put on the mask did withered Chica make her appearance with Kai. They left and Naruto almost jumped at hearing a "hi" from the left. Turning his head he found a brown-haired boy with blue eyes holding a sign that said balloons and a yellow-red stripped balloon. "Balloon boy. Nearly forgot about him," said Vixen, taking the thing out. "Was he a animatronic?" asked Naruto, nervous. "No, there's nothing in him. He's a statue that give balloons to kids. He disables the flashlight at night. He and Foxy are never far apart on the night side," said Jeremy. A screech sounded as a red fox that Naruto immediately saw had some connection to Andrew Leap, and Naruto thanked his age when Foxy went over and crashed into the wall. Well, that was a surprise. said Naruto, winding up the music box as he did so. I think he got jarred into deactivation, said Vixen. Wait, you're supposed to be the new version, right? So why the gender change? Asked Naruto. I got no idea, said Vixen with a shrug. With that, Bonbon arrived and seemed to fight Withered Bonnie, who was faceless and missing an arm. Naruto winced at the sight. Oh yeah, the toy animatronics had some territorial issues, said Jeremy at seeing this as Foxy was dragged out by Withered Bonnie as Naruto winded the music box back up. 10 minutes later the chimes sounded and Jeremy vanished. Naruto took off the mask and another minigame appeared. This time he was Foxy and had to run down the hall with Purple Guy in the corner after the third repeat. When Naruto entered the room with kids in it, they were dead and the Purple Guy entered the frame behind Foxy. With that, the game ended. That must be something involving the diner again. Looked like the day guard position. I didn't see the day guard though, said Naruto. I thought it was strange. Usually the day guard is looking over things from the office, said Vixen. But that's where I'm at. That must mean that as long as I'm in this area, I'm taking over for the day guard as well. Better get some sleep though, wake me up when the place opens, said Naruto before falling asleep. Naruto woke up and found some more scrolls alongside a backpack. Morning Naruto, Vixen already explained what you found out. The shinobi sent you some more gear, as at the rate you're going there won't be time to teach you more in time to send you home. So he thought ahead and placed some scrolls. He wants you to have the backpack is to hold them and the previous scrolls. Inside is some clothes that should fit you as well. And Naruto, I agree, it must have been the day guard that caused the missing kids to vanish. You better go see them, said Phone Guy. With a nod, Naruto changed and left the office and found the 5 kids looking forlorn as they noticed Naruto approach. Naruto, today's the day we won't be seen much. Whatever you do, stay hidden if you have to, said Andrew. Naruto frowned in worry before an idea came to him. He pulled out a scroll and read it. I got something that should help on that. I'm going to need one of you to help me out. I can disguise myself as a plushie one of you can hold, said Naruto. Making sure no one was watching, he did 3 quick hand signs and was replaced by a plushie of Toy Bonnie that Sunny picked up surprised. That is interesting, but we are about to return to the memory, so hold on, said Sunny before she and the other 4 seemed to change before a guy in a golden rabbit suit waved them over. The 5 with Sunny held Naruto into a hidden room before the guy locked the door. Naruto watched in horror as the thought-to-be animatronic took off the suit and pulled out a knife before starting to kill the kids, and Naruto shook in time to Sunny's own shivers of fear as blood got onto him. Then the murderer plunged the knife into Sunny's chest, barely missing Naruto as the girl collapsed dead. Leaving, the supposed day guard walked away with no blood on him. Once sure Naruto was alone, reversed the hinge and looked at the 5 children with tears in his. He felt a hand on his shoulder. Looking up, he found the marionette, who looked at the dead kids as well. Don't be afraid, for they shall stay with you in mind and heart. Cherish the time you had, said Marionette, his voice having a strange echo. He pulled out animatronic heads and placed them over the dead children's heads. Suddenly they glowed and transformed into the withered animatronics. Max though vanished, making Naruto worried. What happened to Max? Asked Naruto, looking at the spot Fred's twin was. You will find out later. But who are you? You don't seem familiar, said Marionette. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. My situation is a bit hard to believe. The one who did this is the day guard. I'm not sure what to think. I better get back. You may be a bit creepy, but I can tell you have a good soul for a machine. See you around, said Naruto, heading out. Once back at the office with Vixen, the knight returned with Jeremy. The video was much like last time, only the heads were turned to the camera this time. Hello. See, I told you you wouldn't have any problems. Did Foxy ever appear in the hallway? Probably not, I was just curious. Like I said, he was always my favorite. They tried to remake Foxy, though they thought the first one was too scary. So they redesigned him to be more kid-friendly inside of his kids' code to keep the toddlers entertained. But kids these days just can't keep their hands to themselves. The staff literally had to put Foxy back together again at the end of every shift. Eventually they just stopped trying and just left him in some kind of take-apart put-back-together attraction. Now he's just a mess of parts, and the employees refer to him as just the mangled. Oh hey, and before I go, I wanted to ease your mind about any rumors you might have heard lately. Too many local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our establishment. It is just all rumor and speculation, people trying to make a buck, you know. Our guard during the day has reported nothing unusual and he's on watch from opening until close. Okay, well anyway, hang in there and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Seems the day guard hid his tracks well. After what I saw, he must have skipped tomorrow and the rest of the week, using a rabbit costume to lure the group away and kill them. I am going to give them a proper closure if I find that thing, said Naruto with a glare. Wait, rabbit costume? I thought it was the bear one that was used, said Jeremy. It looked like a golden bunny, informed Naruto. He put on his mask and checked the animatronics and winded up the music box. It was a slightly harder time as it seemed all the animatronics eventually made their way to the office, with both Chica's, Bonnie's and Freddy making separate appearances with Foxy and Balloon Boy. Naruto froze as he realized he didn't hear the music box. Suddenly lunging into the room was Marionette, who suddenly froze before tilting its head. Naruto, what are you doing in the night guard's job at your age? Asked the puppet, moving to stand on the floor. Looks like Naruto added the marionette to our group somehow, noted Vixen as the puppet stared at her and Jeremy. What's going on? Asked Puppet. Vixen explained it to the stringless marionette and it nodded in understanding. So you're from the future, and in order to get home you have to get through 3 certain weeks in 3 different locations, and somehow you made me and Toy Foxy aware of this? So there's a time loop going on, and all of this had already happened just without you being there? Well, I know there won't be another me in this, so I best get back to the prize corner. Good luck, Naruto, for tomorrow, and the next 2 days are giving to be a lot harder. You will have my help in delaying the animatronics though, said Marionette. With that he vanished and the chimes sounded. Jeremy vanished and Naruto's newest minigame was called Give Life. Naruto recognized the room and guided Marionette to the dead kids to give them animatronic bodies, and when he got to Max's the game cut off. Well, things are getting a bit out of hand to get Marionette like this was surprising. And now we know what happened to the kids, so now we have to find out what happened to Purple Guy, said Phone Guy. Only one minigame left and I have a feeling it's different for the others, said Naruto before turning in for now. Naruto woke up and just didn't move out of the office until he went for breakfast. He stayed in the office and studied the scrolls. He found a sealing scroll seal and finding some plushies sealed them into the scroll with his other scrolls. Placing the scroll into his pocket, he sighed as night quickly came. The video played with Chica and Bonnie now fully turned to the camera that Naruto now realized was in Freddy Fazbear's eyes. Chica and Bonnie seemed angry. With that, Jeremy reappeared. You okay, Naruto? Asked Jeremy. Yeah, just wondering what the last minigame is, said Naruto, putting on the mask and checking the tablet as the message came back up. Hello? Hello? Hey there, Night 4. I told you you'd get the hang of it. Okay, so just to update you, there's been somewhat of an, investigation going on. We may end up having to close for a few days. I don't know. I want to emphasize though that it's really just a precaution. Fazbear Entertainment denies any wrongdoing. These things happen sometimes. It'll all get sorted out in a few days. Just keep an eye on things and I'll keep you posted. Just as a side note though, try to avoid eye contact with any of the animatronics tonight if you can. Someone may have tampered with their facial recognition systems, we're not sure. But the characters have been acting very unusual, almost aggressive towards the staff. They interact with the kids just fine, but when they encounter an adult, they just stare. Anyways, hang tight. It'll all pass. Good night. Great, in hindsight that should have been a clue that it would definitely get more dangerous as it goes on, said Jeremy as Vixen woke up. What's going on? Asked Vixen. The others were tampered with. Naruto is going to be stuck in that mask all night. At least Marionette will help us. Good thing Naruto is only 3, his size allows Foxy to go right over him. Seems they fully see him as me, age included, so they will miss if going for my head, said Jeremy. The night went by quick as he kept getting visits from Balloon Boy and Foxy, with Chica and Bonnie and Freddy. Seemed Marionette was keeping the toys busy. Soon enough 6 o'clock came and Jeremy vanished. This time the minigame returned to Freddy, who Naruto had to move and follow the marionette, and as he got to a certain room he heard the words "save them" in the static. With that done, the screen shut off. Vixen sighed. Guess that means that there are more souls lost to this place, Naruto, said Vixen, looking to the blonde child. The future shinobi nodded and went to sleep and prepare for the next day. Naruto sighed as he continued the same as yesterday, studying the scrolls when he also started to practice the sword. It was then he found that there was something off with the building. It seemed empty. Naruto, thank God I managed to contact you. Something outside the building is starting to interfere with the flux. I have quite some of the dead night guards investigating. Seems someone is trying to trap you in the between time zones. We believe it's the killer. We managed to drive him off. The animatronics are going to be altered a bit. Whatever happened gave you the rest of your allies this week. The toys are going to your office now with Marionette. He's explaining as we speak. Just hold tight because he may try again next week around this time. This just accelerated the progress tonight. You get some calmer time. Now that you have all your allies, they can try and divert the withered animatronics to get you to 6, but keep the mask on. Jeremy is going to be a bit out of it tonight, so be careful, said phone guy, sounding a bit out of breath. Thanks for the update. Guess he became aware of my presence somehow, said Naruto as the toys were led in by the puppet. The murderer tried to force me into between the temporal space. That's why these three are now aware. If anything, now only the withered is going to be the problem. Jeremy is going to be out of it, so he might not show. I think it's due to my age that the killer is trying this. From what I gathered, this is the first time this happened, said Naruto. He's trying to make you a victim. He won't get away with this, said Toy Chica, taking off her beak. The shinobi that was before Naruto managed to seal the flux from tampering for now. He also sent a lot of stuff. Apparently that person before Naruto came here was also a Uzumaki, so this stuff is Naruto's inheritance in a way. It's all in the backpack, said Vixen from the desk. BB will also be a problem. He and Foxy have a partnership going, said Toy Freddy. Listen kid, sorry for the hunting you down, but now that we are okay we can try and make up for it, said Toy Bonnie. Thanks, cover as much as you can. Toy Bonnie, Vixen guard the left vent, Toy Freddy, Toy Chica guard the right, Marionette guard the hall. I will keep track with the cameras. Because the night is now here, said Naruto as the video started up and gave them a surprise. It was the same as the first video, but the Marionette was in front of the Freddy and following the movements. Naruto looked at Marionette confused. Suddenly Jeremy appeared and slumped against the wall. The killer is really able to put up a fight. I got to admit, chakra is surprising. I don't think he was expecting it. Your ancestor is pretty strong even in death. Good tactics by the way, said Jeremy as the kid just nodded as he looked through the camera. Hello, hey, good job, night 5. Hey, keep a close eye on things tonight, okay? From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move you to the day shift. A position just became available. We don't have a replacement for your shift yet, but we're working on it. We're going to try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Fredbear's Family Diner, or something like that. It's been closed for years though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down. Well, just get through one more night. Hang in there. Good night. Explains why the building felt empty. BB is on the move. Left vent, said Naruto, and Vixen hit the light and Toy Bonnie dragged in the statue and restrained it before it could disable the flashlight. Foxy's in the hallway, reported the puppet. Let it through. It usually goes over my head and into the wall, disabling itself. If not, I got a sword, said Naruto, and true to form Foxy disabled itself. Right vent, it's old Chica, said Naruto, and Toy Chica strobed the light, making the broken-jawed version to retreat to parts and service. Left vent, it's old Faceless, called Naruto, keeping the mask on. Vixen did the strobing this time. Freddy down the hall, I can handle him, said Marionette, who pulled out a spare flashlight and strobed the bear. After 10 more repeats the shift was over and Toy Bonnie led BB to return to the prize room as Toy Freddy and Chica dragged Foxy back to parts and service. Tonight is the last night before we are off to 1993 and the next guide, said Naruto. Jeremy, why are you still here? Asked Vixen. I'm now officially the new day guard. I'm handling tomorrow's daytime events. The bite of 87 happens then. That will be when you're taken to the next guy's office. Been nice working with you guys, said Jeremy, standing after recovering from the fight he had. Same, though you weren't much of a guide, said Naruto. I knew you could handle yourself. By the way, nice leadership skills in directing your allies, said Jeremy. I have a dream to lead my village one day. I got to have some training in that. Plus we worked well on it. Though where did you get the flashlight marionette? Asked Naruto turning to the puppet. Found it at the front door. The killer must have dropped it when he was taken out when the flux got sealed. I'm sure that we haven't heard from the last of him, said Marionette grimly. Well, we got 12 hours until the next sortie. Get ready, said Naruto. Hey, I just noticed you talk very well for a 3-year-old, said Jeremy blinking. I'm an orphan and grew up on the streets a bit. Plus I learned from the Hokage, the village leader, how to read. I just listened to how he talked on pronunciation. From there it was easy. I got a huge learning curve, explained Naruto. That explains a bit. So why do you want to be Hokage if your village hates you? Asked Jeremy. I guess I want to prove to them I'm not what they think I am. See, I was born the day a 9-tailed demon fox known as Kyuubi attacked the village. Guess they think I'm the demon as I was the only one born that day. I don't know who my parents are, said Naruto. Well, that explains why you were chased into this place and why you're in this situation now, said Phone Guy. Phone Guy, does Naruto's ancestor have any more info? I think their hate wasn't just because of that, said Marionette. Yeah, but to confirm it, Naruto, is there a strange mark on your stomach? It may give us more insight, said Phone Guy, sounding a bit scared. Naruto pulled up his shirt to check as he was channeling chakra to prevent dropping the mask. Yeah, I'm guessing you all can see us at the moment, asked Naruto. Got it in one. Okay, your ancestor has some bad news. That marking is known as a seal. One he never saw before. He told me that the only way to defeat the Kyuubi is to seal it. According to him, the first Hokage's wife Mito Uzumaki was its first jail. You're what's known as a Jinchuruki, a demon container. This means the Kyuubi was sealed into you. As far as I can understand, you're not the actual demon. Guess the rest of your village don't understand seals if they thought you were the actual demon. If I'm right, it was your dad who sealed it in hoping it would help you survive without him. Must have sacrificed his life to do it, said Phone Guy. But the one who did defeat the Kyuubi was the 4th Hokage, with the 3rd one being the current leader. And from what I learned from the old man is that the 4th Hokage made a lot of enemies during the 3rd Shinobi War. Guess the old man hid my heritage to protect me from those enemies. That means I was given my mother's maiden name, said Naruto, shocked. And as it's been confirmed you're related to the 1st Hokage, that means it's practically in your blood, kid, said Jeremy. Naruto, when you get out, don't let on what you learned until you're ready. Things will get better. I'm sure you can change their opinion if you work at it, said Toichika, acting like a older sister, as that's what she was starting to feel like. If anyone can do it, it's Naruto. Now kid, go get some sleep, said Toy Bonnie, and Naruto nodded, taking off the mask and falling asleep after taking off his sword. Looks like we are starting to become like a family to him, said Vixen. He's kinda growing on me like a little brother, said Toichika. Same here. We both have something in common. No one cared for us much. When I was mangled, I felt really alone. Naruto actually had that in common. Had to walk him through repairing me when he fixed my voice. He must have experience repairing radio devices, said Vixen. He definitely is. Surprising, I mean, to retain his innocence despite his hard life shows he has a pure soul. I'm sure he knows a lot about pranks too, said Toy Bonnie. According to his ancestor, pranking is in their blood. Gives them good trap-making skills, said Phone Guy with a chuckle. Oh, I remember some of the pranks that Shinobi told us he pulled as a kid. Definitely going to take his word for it, said Jeremy. With that, they continued the conversation for a few more hours. Hello? Hello? What on earth are you doing there? Didn't you get the memo? The place is closed down. At least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting right. Listen, Jay, just finish your shift. It's safer than trying to leave in the middle of the night. We have one more event scheduled for tomorrow, a birthday. You'll be on day shift, wear your uniform, stay close to the animatronics, make sure they don't hurt anyone, okay? For now, just make it through the night. When the place eventually opens again, I'll probably take the night shift myself. Okay, good night and good luck. Naruto sighed as he kept the mask over his face. It had been some hours since he woke up and they had returned to the same setup as yesterday, and on hearing this message everyone gave Jeremy a look. Good question, why were you here if the place closed down? Asked Vixen, saying what was on their minds. I actually didn't get the memo. I think I missed it. Doesn't matter after what will happen. Naruto, don't leave the office, just watch from the cameras tomorrow, said Jeremy, making Vixen wince. You were the person the real mangle bit the frontal lobe off, weren't you? Phone guy told me about that when I became aware, said Vixen. Yeah, surprisingly I survived but died after 6 years. Ironic enough, the same year the next week is taking place. 1993 inches, said Jeremy. Naruto snapped his head to the tablet. Freddy is on the move, heading towards the hallway. Marionette, get ready. Chica and Bonnie are in the vents and Foxy is on the way with Balloon Boy. Looks like they're going all out. Look alive, guys, said Naruto, going through camera feeds. With that, the group got ready, hearing the banging in the vents and some strobing got them away. Marionette strobed Freddy and Foxy as Toy Bonnie held down Balloon Boy when a giggle from under the desk made Naruto look down. Where did a pink-eyed Balloon Boy come from? Asked Naruto. Suddenly the being under the desk looked insulted. Naruto, that's actually Balloon Girl, a variant of Balloon Boy. She's not real but can cause some odd things, warned Jeremy. With that, Naruto grabbed her and tossed her to Toy Freddy to restrain. After 10 more attempts, the chime for 6 sounded. Immediately the balloon siblings faded away and the group moved to behind the desk. Naruto changed the camera to the main room where Jeremy just entered and found Mangle about to bite a child and pushed her out of the way, and with a warp the office changed. It was slightly smaller with 2 doors to the side and a vent above their heads. The doors had 2 buttons, one labeled door in red with the other was green for lights. The camera showed a fully repaired trio of withered animatronics. Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie. That means Foxy is somewhere here as well. The last animatronics I can get as allies for week 3. Guess there's some more mini-games that we need to play and get more of the story, said Naruto, switching cameras to reveal closed purple star emblemed curtains with out of order sign. Must be where Foxy is. By the looks of things there are only 2 entrances in here. The east and west halls. Well, we got a full 24 hours until we get back to the grind. Toy Bonnie, Vixen, the left hall is yours to guard. The other 2, the other Marionette, you're with me on cameras and keeping track of these 4, said Naruto. Right, said the 5 animatronics. With that, week 1 ended and now it's 1993, the last week for the pizzeria before Fazbear Frights. Can they handle this one? Find out in week 2? The next day, after resting and recovering any lost sleep, Naruto waited for Phone Guy to explain the differences. Hello? All good, you got there safely. As I'm sure you noticed, the place went through some changes. As you can see, the company fell on hard times. The differences you noticed are definitely huge. You notice you don't have the mask anymore? Well, I saw you sealed it away once the night was done. But here's the tricky part. You're no longer allowed to use it. Your only defenses are the doors. But remember, the place is on hard times. You're going to learn more in tonight's message. You're going to meet your new guide soon. His name is Mike Schmidt, who can definitely act like a guide. Here's some info you need. Before Mike, not one guard survived the weeks before. Week before Mike got the job, I was the night guard. Only made it to Thursday. I was a lot more nervous this round because of how many was killed. Mike can explain their behaviors this time. Strobing won't work anymore. Good luck, said Phone Guy, making the group nervous. Soon a brown-haired young man walked it and gave a start at seeing the 5 animatronics. Let me guess, you're allowed extra help due to your age. First time this has happened actually. The previous guy was only allowed what he had on hand and as his guides. So introductions are in order. I'm Mike Schmidt, the last night guard this particular location had, said Mike. Naruto Uzumaki, this is Marionette, Toy Chica, Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Vice, though she was originally called Toy Foxy or the Mangle. To you, they were at the old location 6 years back. So any info on or opponents? Asked Naruto. Yeah, Bonnie tends to be the first you encounter. He tends to hang in the supply closet, backstage, and the left party rooms. He always goes down the left hallway. Chica frequents the kitchen, right party rooms, and backstage. She goes down the east hall. Freddy doesn't move until the 3rd night and is sticking to the shadows. The east hall is his usual entry. But when the power runs out, he goes to the left hallway. Foxy is harder to track. You must keep an eye on Pirate's Cove every once in a while, otherwise he runs down the left hallway, giving you only a minute to react and close the door. Once the power is out, you can't hide from him. But with these 5 you might have an easier time of making sure to survive. That's about it, said Mike. On cue the phone call started. Ring. Hello. I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled down on your first night. I actually worked at that office before you. I am finishing up my last week now as a matter of fact, so I know it can be overwhelming, but I am here to tell you that there is nothing to worry about. You'll do fine. So let's just focus on getting you through the first night. Okay, let's see. First there is an introductory reading for the company that I am supposed to read. It's kinda a legal thing, you know. Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life. Fazbear's Entertainment are not responsible for damage, property, or person on discovering of damage or death has occurred. A missing person report will be made within 90 days and the death of a person will be cleaned with bleach and the carpets will be cleaned blah blah blah. Now that might sound bad, I know, but there is nothing to worry about. The animatronic puppets become quirky at night, but do I blame them? No. If I were forced to sing those same stupid songs for 20 years and never got a bath, I probably would be irritable at night too. So remember, these characters hold a special place in the hearts of children and show them a little respect, right? Okay, so just be aware that the characters tend to wander a bit. They have some sort of free roaming mode at night, something about their servers locking up or they get turned off for too long. They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too, but then there was the bite of 1987. Yeah, it's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, ya know. Now concerning the only real safety during the night watch, if any, is the fact that these characters, if they happen to see you after hours, probably won't recognize you as a person. They'll most likely see you as a metal endoskeleton without its costume on. Now since that is against the rules of Freddy's Fazbear's Pizza, they'll probably forcefully stuff you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit. Well, that wouldn't be so bad if the suit themselves weren't filled with crossbeams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. So you can imagine having your head being pressed inside those would cause a bit of discomfort and death. The only parts that will see the light of day will be your eyeballs and teeth that will pop out of the mask. Yeah, they don't tell you these things when you sign up, but hey, see you first thing tomorrow. Check those cameras and remember to close those doors only if they are absolutely necessary. Got to conserve power. Alright, good night. Yeah, I thought it was a joke, but as you got the animatronics with, you can tell it's not. Anyway, check the cameras. The kitchen is audio only. During the day you can send the marionette to distract the animatronics while Toy Chica cooks something. I doubt you can leave the office otherwise, said Mike. At least you're better at this guiding thing than Jeremy. He was the victim of the bite. He died this year from the injury. What about you? How are you here as a spirit, Mike, when I don't know if you died? Said Naruto, checking the cameras to see the animatronics were staring at the camera. Oh, I didn't die here. I had the unfortunate luck of running into the killer once the place closed for good during a rainy night. Ended up dead halfway home and found myself stuck with various other victims, said Mike with a wince. Sorry, was curious. Bonnie's gone, he's not at the places he frequents. Check the doors, said Naruto. Toy Bonnie pressed the lights and came face to face with his counterpart, who looked shocked to see him. With a press of the door button, the door closed. Mike told them it usually takes about 10 minutes for them to leave. 10 minutes later the door opened with Bonnie gone. Chica's on the move, said Naruto before they heard pots clanging. Kitchen, said Mike. Maybe I can fix that camera during the day while they're distracted, said Naruto. He managed to fix my voice box, informed Vixen. With a few more visits from Bonnie the night ended. Naruto frowned in confusion. Sorry Naruto, no minigames this week. It's pure survival. You better wait on making that repair later, said Phone Guy as Mike faded away. With a sigh, Naruto waited as he watched the 5 animatronics look over his direction. Sleep Naruto, we will keep an eye on things, said Toy Bonnie. With that, Naruto went to sleep. Naruto sighed as he studied the scrolls again. He was coming along and getting used to his chakra system. He was even getting used to the substitution and henge techniques. His training was getting better. He was also looking at the newspapers in the hall and frowned at seeing that a suspect was arrested 6 years earlier. The killer was still on the loose from what Mike said. Soon the night returned and with it came Mike. Hello. Oh hey, you made it to night 2, congrats. I will not talk long this time since Fazbear and his friends become more active as the week progresses. It might be a good idea to peek at those cameras while I talk just to make sure they're in place. Interestingly enough, Freddy himself doesn't come off stage very often. I heard he becomes more active in the dark though, so one more reason to not run out of power, right? I also want to emphasize to use the door lights. There are blind spots in the camera view that happen to be right outside of the door. So if you can't find something or someone on your camera, be sure to check the door lights. You might only have a few seconds to react, not because you are in danger, of course. I am not implying that. Also check on the curtains in Pirate Cove. The character in that place is unique in that he comes more active if the cameras remain off for a long enough time. I guess he doesn't like to be watched. I don't know. Anyway, I am sure you have everything under control. Talk to you soon. With that, Naruto checked the animatronics they had to face and his allied ones kept to their posts. Foxy was definitely getting active with Chika and Bonnie. Naruto and Marionette kept letting them know if they were on the move when they noticed the cove was open. Foxy's on the move, shut the left door, said Naruto. A clang was his response before something slammed into it. 3 bangs showed Foxy was trying to get in before heading back to the cove. Naruto checked the power and lowered the tablet. 90%, we must be doing well, sighed Naruto. With that, the encounters continued with Chika getting as surprised as Bonnie with her toy counterpart when she shows up and getting the door closed. With that, the night ended with them having 50% left. Things get harder from here. Naruto Freddy starts getting active tonight. Be on the lookout, so get some sleep, said Phone Guy. Naruto nodded and went to sleep. The animatronics shared a look. How much longer can Naruto hold out on the small amount of sleep he gets before each shift? They just maintained their posts and hoped for the best. Naruto the next day went into the kitchen, which was fully stocked with Toy Chica. If he was going to be stuck without food next week, he better seal away some food for the upcoming days. With Toy Chica's help, he managed to seal away a week's worth of food in a separate storage scroll and went back to the office after fixing that camera. Turned out the wires to the lens was frayed. Replacing the wires, he went back to the office. Soon Mike returned. You know, I've been curious what Chika and Freddy do in there, said Mike. Possibly cook or something. What with all the pans? The place is fully stocked, said Naruto. Hello. Hey, you are doing great. Most people don't last this long. You know, they usually move on to other things by now. I am not implying that they died, but that's not what I meant. Anyway, I better not take up too much of your time as things start to get real tonight. Hey, listen, I had an idea. If you happen to get caught and want to avoid getting stuffed in a Freddy's suit, try playing dead. You know, go limp. There is a chance that they'll think you are an empty costume instead. Then again, if they think you are an empty costume instead, they might shove a skeleton skull into you. I wonder how that will work. Yeah, never mind, scratch that. It's best not to get caught. Okay, I will leave you to it. See you on the flip side. Good thing I can do a substitution technique with the cupcake on the desk to get back, said Naruto. And at the time, Phone Guy wasn't aware all of them did die, said Mike, shaking his head. With that, Foxy nearly got into the room only to freeze at seeing his female counterpart, allowing her to close the door. With some encounters with Chika and Bonnie, Naruto gasped as he and Marionette checked the main stage. Freddy is on the move. Okay, that's creepy. Guy would make a great ninja. Really blends well into the shadows, said Naruto, finding the bear in party room 4. Freddy returned to the stage and they checked the kitchen and found Chika cleaning. She was cleaning the dirty dishes with oversized latex gloves up to her shoulder to protect her limbs from the water, and her head kept hitting the hanging pots. Well, that's one mystery solved, said Mike, looking over his shoulder with a raised eyebrow. Chika looked up and went wide-eyed, noticing the camera was fully functional. She was looking embarrassed and seemed to be trying to hide. Guess my older counterpart seems a bit of a secret mother hen there, said Toy Chika. They switched cameras and a sound to their left showed Foxy tried to get in again from the 3 bangs. Freddy came down the east hall and stared at his shorter counterpart. Not getting in here, sorry, quipped Toy Freddy as he closed that door to the sudden laughter of Chika, who was at the window only for Freddy to glare at her. I also thought it was funny, mother hen, said Toy Chika to her counterpart, also laughing. Naruto just stared. Did you just tease your counterpart? That can be taken as you teasing yourself there, said Naruto. Toy Chika rolled her eyes, not caring. The chimes for 6 rang and the 4 animatronics went back to their posts with Chika still laughing. Okay, I agree with Naruto. Did you two actually teased or joked with your counterparts? Asked Phone Guy, confused. Yes, their reactions break up the monotone routine we have right now, said Toy Freddy. I will never understand robotics, said Naruto heading to sleep. Same, said phone guy as he ended the call. Naruto sighed. Yeah, this was when he died. At least the week before I went here as the guard. Get ready, said Mike. Incoming Bonnie, said Marionette. Nope nope nope, so much nope, taunted Toy Bonnie to his confused counterpart before the door closed. With that, the group eventually started taunting their counterparts, leaving Naruto and Marionette to sigh as they alerted the toy animatronics. Nothing to see here. Sorry, wrong place. Have a ship-shaped day, Captain. Hey there, Mother Hen, how are you? Any more of this and I will scream, said Marionette after 10 more of such taunts. It's 5:59, just endure it for one last minute, sighed Naruto. Soon the chimes for 6 rang. Finally, that was starting to make me bang my mask on the desk, said Marionette, throwing his arms up. I agree, and I'm supposed to be the kid, said Naruto, giving the 4 a look. We are kids, we are only 6 years old. That, and it's a good way of getting rid of stress, said Vixen. Well, who knew you can act so human? But please try to stay professional. You went and made 10 of the guards go into fetal position. Anyway, can one of you even try to find my remains? I want to be given a proper burial once this is over, said phone guy. I will do it, said Marionette as he went out the door. I'm going to sleep, that was a bit annoying, said Naruto, heading to the chair. Naruto was awoken by the building shaking, which stopped suddenly. Naruto. He tried again. This time your ancestor lined it with traps and the guy tripped all of them at once. That was the shaking you felt. The 4 animatronics are aware now. You got 2 extra days to recover, said phone guy. Thanks for the update, phone guy, said Naruto as he noticed all 9 animatronics were now in the office. Was the teasing really necessary? Asked Chika to her toy counterpart in a very familiar voice to Naruto. Sonny, does that mean Foxy is Andrew, Bonnie is Jack and Freddy is Frederick? Man, I missed you 4 back in 1987, said Naruto, surprised. Yep, our souls are in the animatronics, said Fred. Where is Max though? I didn't see him when we woke up, said Sonny. You will see him soon, just know he is fine, said Marionette. We found out it was the day guard who killed you. The guy hid his tracks pretty good, though now he's trying to place me between the time zones, said Naruto. Not only that, we are going back to Naruto's time next week. We are syncing back up to his time, said phone guy. That's great, but didn't you say my final opponent is persistent, said Naruto. He is. It's Springtrap. The building you entered was Fazbear Frights. You saw the murderer use the suit, Naruto, said phone guy. How long has it been since Springtrap was active? Asked Freddy. 30 years from 1993 in the year 2023. The guard from there refused to tell me his name but did give info on the place. Seems the place is dangerous. Besides Springtrap, the air conditioning is bad. The air inside is so thin it causes hallucinations. Not only that, but a fire can easily start up if the red lights flash. The hallucinations are called phantom animatronics, and there's only 6. One of Freddy, one of Foxy, one of Mangle, one of Chica, one of Balloon Boy, and one of Marionette. Each phantom can cause system failures in the vents, audio, and cameras. Naruto, you're going to be more affected due to your age. For this, let the animatronics handle the cameras and system reboots, said phone guy. Great, so I guess I better catch up on sleep. Can you 9 figure out who is doing what? Asked Naruto. Count on us, said the 9 with smiles. Mike arrived just then with a confused look, finding Naruto asleep and all 9 animatronics talking. I feel like I just missed something, thought Mike. With that, he left the room wondering what was going on and resolved to ask phone guy about it. The 2 days passed with a lot of planning. Was agreed that the girls were in charge of maintenance while Marionette and the bunnies handled the cameras. The 2 Fazbears were to protect Naruto if these phantom animatronics start acting up. With a plan all set, the group waved Mike goodbye and the office returned to the first office Naruto saw. They were back in Konoha now, but in order to truly leave they had to get through 6 more days. Hey, glad you came back for another night. I promise, it'll be a lot more interesting this time. We found some great new relics over the weekend, and we're out tracking down a new lead right now. So, let me just update you real quick, then you can get to work. The attraction opens in like a week, so we have to make sure everything works, and nothing catches on fire. When the place opens, people will come in at the opposite end of the building, and works their way towards you, and pass you, and out the exit. Yeah, you've officially become part of the attraction. You'll be starring as the security guard. So not only will you be monitoring the people on the camera as they pass through, to make sure no one steals anything or makes out at the corner, but you'll also be a part of the show. It'll make it feel really authentic, I think. Now let me tell you about what's new. We found another set of drawings, always nice, and a foxy head, which we think could be authentic. Then again, it might just be another crappy cosplay. And we found a desk fan, very old school, metal though, so watch the fingers. Hey. Right now the place is basically just, flashing lights and spooky props. I honestly thought we'd have more by now, so if we don't have anything really cool by next week, we may have to suit you up in a Freddy, furry suit, and make you walk around saying, boo. Hee hee. But like I said, we're trying to track down a good lead right now. Some guy who helped design one of the buildings said there was like an extra room that got boarded up. Or something like that. So, we're gonna take a peek and see what we can find. For now just get comfortable with the new setup. You can check the security cameras over on your right, with a click of that blue button. You can toggle between the hall cams and the vent cams. Then over on your far left, you can flip up your maintenance panel. Use this to reboot any systems that may go offline. In trying to make the place feel more vintage we have overdone it a bit. Haha, some of this equipment is barely functional. I wasn't joking about the fire, that's a real risk. But the most important thing you have to watch for is the ventilation. Look, this place will give you the spooks, man, and if you let that ventilation go offline, then you'll start seeing some crazy stuff, man. Keep that air blowing. Okay, keep an eye on things, and we'll try to have something new for y'all tomorrow night. That was the message they got on Monday, meaning it was a extra rest day. They just made sure the place was in working order with the bunnies looking through the box. Hey, my guitar, arm and head are in here. Alongside Toy Chica's head, part of Mangle's endoskeleton, Freddy's head, Mangle's head, and Foxy's lower right arm alongside Marionette's mask. For something stuck here for longer than 36 years they're in good condition, said Toy Bonnie examining the parts. The rest of our parts are scattered throughout the place. I mean my suit is just outside the entrance, said Freddy pointing to the stand to their left which had the mask and torso of his animatronic suit looking in. Yeah, welcome to Fazbear Frights, the attraction dedicated to everything that was done wrong by Purple Guy. Sighed Phone Guy. And also mocking your murders, guys, added Naruto looking to the animatronics holding 4 of the missing kids' souls. We must be careful, these phantoms might have a physical form but they must still be triggered by the ventilation. We also have to stop the place from burning down sooner or later, said Marionette. With that, Naruto took advantage of the space to seal away the box of parts. Just in case the place does burn down, I don't want to lose something to remind me of this adventure, said Naruto. If you're collecting empty masks you still need Foxy's, Chica's and Bonnie's, said Marionette. Listen up gang, there is a lot more danger here than we thought. Springtrap is going to appear tomorrow. I learned from the guard that Springtrap has no set starting point. There are mini games here though, Naruto. One for Balloon Boy, one for Mangle, one for Bonnie and one for all 4 original animatronics. Plus apparently the new guard won't be able to guide you more. Or at all. He actually just handed me a written account of his week. Not much details except on the mini-games. I will tell you once that particular game hits, said Phone Guy. Okay Fazbear, you and your younger counterpart go find spare masks. Naruto must have an idea if a fire breaks out, said Vixen. Not only that but Mike and Jeremy are on standby to haul Naruto out if he passes out from the smoke. Not that much to get outside, said Phone Guy. With that the 2 Freddys went and returned with empty Foxy, Chica, and Bonnie heads. They're the same kind as the mask from the first location, same with those masks in the box. Our cloth ones are good at supporting the electronics, the plastic ones are trickier, said Freddy. Thanks Fred. Now let's get ready for tomorrow, said Naruto. Suddenly a mini-game popped up and Naruto had to play as Toy Chica and deliver cupcakes. He did so and on a whim found a hidden wall and maneuvered Toy Chica onto some red balloon platforms and jumped across them to reach a child that created a cake, ending the minigame. Good work Naruto, if we manage to get more cake endings we can get the truth it looks like, said Phone Guy. Naruto woke up around 10 in the morning and looked to the 4 animatronics that held the souls of the 4 kids. "Hey Sunny, Jack, Fred, Andrew, any idea who Springtrap is like?" asked Naruto. "Not really, Naruto. But I got a bad feeling that things are going to be hard this week," said Bonnie. "Yeah, I'm starting to feel a dark presence entering the building," said Chica. "The last time we felt this was with the murderer," said Freddy. "I'm not even able to describe it," said Foxy. "Don't worry you 4, we can handle it," said Toy Chica with an optimistic tone. "Agreed, for you're not alone and this time you're not going to be as easily killed," said Toy Freddy. "Plus with our abilities we can be able to endure what comes our way," said Toy Bonnie. "Besides, we are part of the Fazbear family and our job is to protect children, and right now that is what Naruto is, even if he can defend himself for now," said Vixen. "We all consider you part of the family as well, Naruto. You handled this better than the past ones who didn't entirely make it out with most of their sanity intact," said Marionette. "You're referring to the night guards. That was because they really only had Phone Guy as an ally who was pretty much forced into that position. I had both him and the night guard at first, then you guys. This just proves teamwork is needed for survival at times," said Naruto. "We worked together to get this far, best make it 3 for 3 here," said Vixen with a nod. "You have grown quite a bit from when you ended up in here, Naruto," said Phone Guy. "As a person maybe. But as long as we are here we better try our best. Now let's get started," said Naruto. With that, night came. "Hey man, okay, I have some awesome news for you. First of all, we found some vintage audio training cassettes. Dude, these are like prehistoric. I think they were like training tapes for like other employees or something like that. So, I thought we could like have them playing like over the speakers while people walk through the attraction. Dude, that makes this feel legit, man. But I have an even better surprise for you, and you're not gonna believe this. We found one, a real one. Gotta go, man. Well, look, it's in there somewhere. I am sure you'll see it. Okay, I'll leave you with some of this great audio I found. Talk to you late, man. Click. Oh, hello. Welcome to your new career as a performer, entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. These tapes will provide you with much needed information on how to handle, climb out of mascot costumes. Right now, we have 2 specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit. So please, pay close attention while learning how to operate these suits, as accidents, injury, death, irreparable and grotesque maiming can occur. First, we will discuss how to operate the mascots when they are in animatronic form. For ease of operation, the animatronics are set to turn and walk towards sound, behavior, giving an easy and hands-free approach to making sure the animatronics stay where the children are, for maximum entertainment, crowd-pleasing value. To change the animatronics to suit mode, insert and turn firmly the hand crank, provided by the manufacturer. Turning the crank will recoil and compress the animatronic parts around the sides of the suit, providing room to climb inside. Please make sure the spring lock is fastened tight, to ensure the animatronic devices remain fit. We'll cover this in more detail in tomorrow's session. Remember to smile, you are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Must have been the suit the murderer wore. Springtrap is one of these hybrid suits, said Naruto. So far he's as far from the office as possible, but he's moving too fluidly for an animatronic, said Bonnie with his blue counterpart nodding. I'm seeing bone and flesh in the damaged areas of the costume. Those eyes are human eyes. I think there's a corpse in it. That may explain the movement, said Marionette in a report. Yikes, time was not kind to that suit, said Naruto. The golden Bonnie was now like a molded greenish gold with tears and scars over the body and was missing most of the right ear. Hold on, my facial recognition is activating my word. It's the murderer in that thing, growled Toy Bonnie. What, but how, asked Toy Chica. The minigames might tell us. We must have to complete them in order to find out the truth, said Foxy guarding the entrance. With that, Marionette, whenever noticing Springtrap was getting close to the office, played an audio tape of Balloon Boy's laugh to make him get to the farthest area. The girls had to seal the vents when Springtrap tried to use them to enter. The group managed to get through the night without a phantom appearing. With that, a minigame appeared. Naruto had to collect the balloons as Balloon Boy. Okay Naruto, you got to jump to the upper left corner of the screen that will take you towards the balloon you need to get left. Said phone guy, and Naruto followed the directions and winced when he got to an area that had a dead tree and a trio of more frightening versions of Balloon Boy and moved past. Even 8-bit form, they looked burnt. He found a path of red balloons and went down them to find a crying child and give cake, ending the minigame. Those must have been Phantom Balloon Boy, said Naruto, referring to the sight. With that, the screen went blank. Naruto, get some sleep, you're going to need it, said Vixen. With that, Naruto followed her instruction. Things are definitely getting odd, said phone guy. We better guard the entrances just in case Springtrap is active still, said Freddy to Foxy and his toy counterpart. The Fazbears went to the vents to guard them with Foxy at the hallway. From start to my death, pretty much since the start. To tell the truth, I'm actually the son of the founder. So call me Mr. Fazbear if you want. I was entering my teens working in the family diner. Dad wanted me to record these messages you're hearing, as the hybrid suits were the start of some cutting-edge technology. The only flaws was the spring locks. It's been so long I've forgotten what was recorded. So from the 1980s to 1990s I worked there for about 13 years. I was 26 when I died. Yeah, I've been literally working for half my life. But yeah, the spring locks were the deadly flaw. We never worked out how to fix it. After a while the project was terminated. Until my week before Mike got the job I was unaware of what was going on. Ironic, isn't it? I was killed by something my family worked so hard to create. Guess you can say me helping you guys to help Naruto survive is my way of making up for past mistakes. Said Mr. Fazbear as he started nostalgic then bitter. And you're doing a great job. When I am out I won't forget all you done. Maybe if reincarnation does exist you might have a better life next time, said Naruto with a smile. Thanks Naruto, that means a lot. Now come on, only 4 nights left. We better hustle if we're going to make it, said Mr. Fazbear, sounding more determined to get Naruto out of harm's way. The animatronics nodded and got into positions with Naruto holding his sword just in case. Girls keep an eye on the maintenance while Jack and Toy Bonnie with Marionette keep an eye on the cams. Freddy, Foxy, Frederick guard the entrances. I can handle the phantoms that get past you, said Naruto, getting into the basic stance. Hello. For today's lesson we will be continuing our training on proper suit handling technique. When using an animatronic as a suit, please ensure that the animatronic parts are tightly compressed and fastened by the spring lock located around inside of the suit. It may take a few moments. Position your head and torso between these parts, in a manner where you can move and speak. Try not to nudge or press against any of the spring locks inside the suit. Do not touch the spring lock at any time. Do not breathe on a spring lock, as moisture may loosen them and cause them to break loose. In case that the spring lock comes loose while wearing the suit, please try to maneuver away from populated areas before bleeding out, as to not ruin the customer experience. As always, if there is ever an emergency, please go to the designated safe room. Every location is filled with one extra room that is not included in the digital map layout programmed for the animatronics or security systems. This room is hidden to customers, invisible to animatronics, and is always off camera. As always, remember to smile, as you are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Now we can see what happened to the killer, but what drove him to get into such a death trap, said Toy Bonnie. We will find out by the end of night 5, said Marionette, as if listening to something only he would hear. While the animatronics handled the Springtrap problem, Naruto found himself staring at a burnt version of Toy Freddy with tinted blue versions of his hat and bow tie seemed to dance across the window into the office. He suddenly dropped at the midpoint and Naruto tensed as he readied his sword. He swung as the phantom actually phased out of the ground, revealing it was missing the right leg, arms raised, and a scream tore out of it. The sword, glowing to unconscious chakra, sliced off the head, making the phantom collapse. Dark energy seemed to waft off it and flew out of the office, while the remains seemed to become a card showing legs. Hollow animatronic legs. Naruto picked it up and looked to the grim-faced animatronics. There's a connection to Springtrap and these phantoms. I don't know why, but that energy entered Springtrap. That dark presence just grew a bit. Not enough to the point of the murderer, said Bonnie, still diverting the hybrid suit. We might still get one other phantom here, said Naruto, tense. Suddenly he swung his blade just as a charcoal version of Marionette with a burnt mask appeared in his face. The halves fell, letting the dark energy go as the remains became a light that flew into the card, adding a mask to the card. It was blank if you took a look at it. They can appear quickly, said Naruto. They also knock out certain systems, but we are on it, said Vixen, rebooting the affected systems. Makes it hard to divert Springtrap, said Toy Bonnie with a scowl. Let's keep at it, said Foxy from the hall. Audio is back, reported Toy Chica. Bonnie triggered the recording, diverting Springtrap with the sound of Balloon Boy's laugh. First time I'm ever glad that statue was actually helpful, said Vixen. Same here, said the toys. Ceiling vents now, said Chica. Suddenly they heard a familiar laugh. Phantom Balloon Boy identified Naruto, already swinging to the left as a burnt Balloon Boy shattered, with all of the remains becoming the energy. 6 chimes showed they made it. 3 down, 3 to go, said Naruto, looking to the others. And we made it just in time. Balloon Boy disabled the vents. I'm rebooting it now. Go get some rest, Naruto. We can keep you posted when you wake up, said Chica. Still a mother hen, said Toy Chica. If I'm a mother hen, then you're the energetic chick, said Chica, making the group roll their eyes. No matter how much time passes, they're still kids at heart, said Marionette. Another minigame popped up, with Naruto having to assemble the mangle without getting caught by the guard, and Mr. Fazbear's hint was to jump on the balloons up to the ceiling and get to a crying child to give a cake. One more closer to the truth, said Naruto. According to this, you're going to have to do 2 minigames on night 5 in order to unlock the truth of Springtrap, said Mr. Fazbear. Then we have a goal then. Get rid of the remaining phantoms and get the truth. Guys, I'm going to need you to hold off Springtrap while I'm doing the final 2 minigames, said Naruto in response. Naruto stretched and got ready with his sword. Everyone remembered their jobs, and with the end in sight, they couldn't afford to mess up. He trained his reflexes and was ready for this. With that, night fell. Hello? There has been a slight change of company policy concerning you and the suits. So, after learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. Safety is top priority at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which is why the classic suits are being retired to an appropriate location, while being looked at by our technicians. Until replacements arrives, you'll be expected to wear the temporary costumes provided to you. Keep in mind, they were found on very short notice, so questions about appropriateness, relevance should be deflected. I repeat, the classic suits are not to be touched, activated, or worn. That being said, we are free of liability. Do as you wish. As always, remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. That explains quite a bit. The murderer must not have known about that, said Toy Bonnie, keeping an eye on the screen. Naruto nodded and kept his sword out. Suddenly a tune sounded. Dum dum dee dum, dum dum dee dum. Freddy and Toy Freddy turned to Foxy. Not me, guys, said Foxy. Naruto turned to his left, spotting a burnt Foxy with his jaw lowered and missing the lower right arm that had the hook. With a lunge, Phantom Foxy screeched. Suddenly Naruto ducked the fox and stabbed with the blade before pushing it down, making the black energy leave as the remains became hollow claws on the card Naruto had. 4 down, 2 to go, smirked Naruto. Rebooting vents now, said Toy Chica. Diverting now, said Bonnie. Sealing vents, said Chica. We can do it, said Vixen. The group continued to divert Springtrap until it was 6. Nice work, team. Now what is the new minigame, said Naruto, getting ready. He found himself playing as a golden version of Freddy, and the group went wide-eyed. Max, said Freddy in shock. Naruto followed Mr. Fazbear's instructions to move through the 9 rooms and approached the child and gave the cake. Thus ended the minigame. A golden Freddy. You put Max's soul into the other hybrid suit, said Naruto, turning to Marionette. Yes, because the endoskeleton parts were removed and placed in my box. This is why I knew a memory version of me wouldn't appear. I already had a supernatural element since I was made. I was the only one able to keep the endoskeleton contained. It was the same one from backstage in the second location. But for now we need to prepare. Only 2 more phantoms left. You're going to have to play a minigame during the shift. Don't worry, we can hold off Springtrap, just focus on the phantoms and the minigames, said Marionette. Alright, but after we get the truth it's going to be one last day and night, then it can finally end, said Naruto. Indeed, said all the animatronics. Thank you Naruto, you have gotten farther than the previous people that got into this mess. With that you got my respect. When you get out, go after that dream of yours. We are in the final stretch now. Go get some rest Naruto, you definitely earned it. You're really lucky, let's hope it holds out. Said Mr. Fazbear. Right, with this excitement I'm beat, said Naruto, getting to sleep after sheathing his sword. Naruto stretched and nodded to the others as they all got into position. Mr. Fazbear, did the guard tell you how to trigger the last two phantoms? Asked Naruto. Actually yes. Phantom Chica is triggered by the arcade machine. Phantom Mangle is triggered by one of the cams. According to the notes, the first minigame you got to do is called Glitch. You have to move the character to the Balloon Boy minigame screen and go through the top left and phase into the purple room and touch the child to trigger the cake ending. Said Mr. Fazbear. Then let's prepare, because I think Springtrap is getting more fluid-like and moving more naturally. I think he's getting his power back, said Naruto. Programming should allow us to distract him at best. Everyone to positions, we got some phantoms to get rid of, then survive one more night, said Bonnie. Right, said everyone else. Naruto changed into a black shirt with a black coat with a white swirl on the back and dark cargo pants, and fitted some fingerless gloves on and slid on his sandals. He tied on his sheath and pulled out a headband that he tied on. Unsheathing his sword, he was ready. The others got into position. Hello. This is just a reminder of company policy concerning the safe room. The safe room is reserved for equipment and or other property not currently being used, and as a backup safety location for employees only. This is not a break room, and should not be considered a place for employees to hide and or to congregate in, and under no circumstance should a customer ever be taken into this room, and out of the main show area. Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved. We would like to remind employees that this costume is not safe to wear under any circumstances. Thank you, and remember to smile. You're the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. That explains where Springtrap was until now. Sealed for 30 years, no wonder the corpse makes it look like a zombie, commented Naruto. Suddenly he slashed, filling in the torso area of the card with the destruction of a burnt Chica that tried to attack. Toy Chica rebooted the audio. He then slashed, destroying the phantom burnt black Mangle and filled in the arms of the card. With the group hard at work, Naruto quickly entered the minigame on the tablet he took from the previous office. Going through as told, he managed it in a minute, playing as what looked like a black Bonnie. Status report, said Naruto. Everything is green and red to go, said Vixen. Springtrap is heading for the vents, seal them, said Bonnie. A clang resounded, showing it works. Finished the minigame, now let's get thorough this night so I can finish this thing, said Naruto. The group was so focused that they were acting as one, with Naruto asking how they were doing and the progress they were at. Soon 6 o'clock chimed and Naruto found himself at the minigame and played as the puppet. With no prompting he moved to the right, passing by gray masked kids until he got to a table of not masked kids he now realized were the missing kids. Andrew, Max, Frederick, Sunny and Jack. As he approached the table, a cake appeared and the animatronic masks went over them before the 6 of them vanished, with 6 balloons rising, showing it was complete. That's it, the last one, said Naruto. Tomorrow night we learn the truth, said Marionette. We did it, we are almost home free. Good work everyone, said Naruto. Good job guys, you earned a good rest, tomorrow is the last day. I can finally move on with the lost souls. By tomorrow this nightmare ends. I can't thank you enough. Everyone is celebrating on this side, said Mr. Fazbear. Yes, congratulations on outwitting me, young Uzumaki, truly you are a worthy foe, but you have earned the right to view my end. It shall appear when you wake up. After that, this next night is the endgame. In the end only one of us will survive, said a warped raspy voice over the speakers, and Naruto glared. The murderer, said Naruto. It's Springtrap now. You're right, this will end. I admit I blundered in trying to get rid of you, but your ancestor proves to be just as much a problem as you. Even in death. I may be a monster when alive, but in death I became a real nightmare. I am still here because I am here to do the devil's work. I am what your village calls the Fazbear Frights demon. Yes, what happened to your 5 friends has happened to me. My soul is trapped in that which killed me. I am a zombie in that instance, but soon you will learn that I am nothing like you ever faced, said Springtrap with a dark undertone. We will find a way to stop you, said Naruto. Naruto woke up and as when the group got to the screen. A new minigame appeared and Naruto found himself playing as all 4 original animatronics following that Black Bonnie, only to be ambushed by Purple Guy, and suddenly 5 ghosts appear and chased Purple Guy into the safe room Naruto guessed. By the rain, this must have took place just after Mike died. Naruto moved the ghost he was playing as after the Purple Guy, who kept moving. Soon Purple Guy went into the suit and stood up laughing at the ghosts. Suddenly he heard the springs as the figure froze and dropped to his knees and slumped against the wall. As you can see, after I killed Mr. Schmidt, I returned to the now closed pizzeria and dismantled the animatronics, unknowingly releasing their souls. They hunted me down. I jumped into the only sanctuary I could find. The suit I used 6 years prior. Thinking I had outsmarted the brats, I stawed and laughed, but the combination of the rainy night air, my sudden movement and the deep breathing as I laughed proved to be my downfall. For 30 years I was trapped in my tomb until I was found. I enjoyed killing that last guard only to realize that I was trapped into the building due to the suit's programming. Then came the time flux, making me relive my greatest sins. But now that you're actually close to beating me, the events that should have happened will start on Sunday. Have a good final night to live, said Springtrap. At least we gave you what you deserved, Springtrap. It is over now. You will never cause travesty on this scale again, said Chica. You ruined so many lives, it's unforgivable, said Toy Bonnie. Which is why we are now here to right your wrongs and free the lives you took, said Marionette. Alone you might have been able to beat and kill anyone caught in the flux, but together we can beat you. That's the power of teamwork, said Naruto. That is what the will of fire is, to stand together and face the odds to create a better future, said all 10. Well said everyone, said a voice, and everyone turned to see Golden Freddy slumped to the left of the entrance. Max, said Freddy, Naruto, you passed the test set out for you. To escape you got to defeat Springtrap. And to do that you're going to need some help, said Golden Freddy, glowing as 9 beams of light shot out from him, hitting the 9 allied animatronics, and they became orbs of light that entered Naruto, making his eyes become pure glowing white as the card Naruto held vanished into his body. With that, Golden Freddy vanished just as the last phone message played. Hello? Hello, hello. This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations, including this one. Work crews will be here most of the day today, constructing a false wall over the old door bay. Nothing is being taken out beforehand, so if you left anything inside, then it's your own fault. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representative. Thanks again, and remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. With that, Naruto seemed to start a battle of wits as he expertly used Springtrap's own body against him, leading him away from the office with the 3 available options he had. Soon enough 6 hours came and went, and suddenly red lights flashed as a fire started up. Grabbing his sword and sealing scrolls, Naruto regained himself before the thin air and fire made him pass out. Mike and Jeremy appeared and firemen carried Naruto out the front entrance to see the mob had vanished at the signs of the fire, except an old man who looked worried for Naruto. You must be the Hokage. I'm Mike and this is Jeremy. Naruto just did us a huge favor, said Mike. Suddenly something shot out of the building and they went wide-eyed, seeing it was Springtrap. This isn't the last you have seen of me, Uzumaki. You may have broken the curse, but the nightmare has just begun, said Springtrap before he blurred out of the village. You're going to have to wait for Naruto to tell you the full story, sir. Frankly, me and Mike's time is up. He's a good kid, said Jeremy as the 2 became transparent blue orbs that shot into the sky, and lots more followed from the burning building. Soon all that was left was an unconscious Naruto and a very confused 3rd Hokage. I have seen many things in my life, but this is not what I had in mind, sighed Sarutobi. When he got the report that Naruto was chased into Fazbear's Frights, he got worried, and by the time he got there the seals were up. He had to wait all week to just see if Naruto is alright. Now it seemed Naruto had just freed a lot of spirits to the afterlife. Surely it seemed that Naruto will always be surprising and unpredictable. The Hokage went and took Naruto to an apartment with a note to come see him about what transpired. With that begins the legend of the animatronic ninja. Naruto stretched as he woke up. It had been 5 years since Naruto was stuck in Fazbear Frights. Sure, he had to explain to the Hokage what happened without letting on he knew about the Kyuubi and his dad. But that still left the question of his mother. Though that wasn't the only thing that had changed since Fazbear Frights. No, it had to do with his new roommates. Turned out the toys, Vixen, the missing kids and Marionette didn't vanish from the events. But they were in the seal. Unlike the Kyuubi, which was surprised by the sudden company, they can come and go as they wanted. And for Naruto, that had some effects on his body. He could access some of what made the animatronic unique. Surprised him when he found himself light on his feet. And a headache from hitting the ceiling. Seems he became as light as Marionette even though his body weight was still the same. He definitely has the same weight from before Fazbear Frights, which was growing to fit his age. It made moving hard as Naruto still had to see the Hokage that day. Naruto had to learn just how much he should put force into not suddenly going very high as light as a feather. Then there was his speed. Apparently Foxy's speed had transferred and added to Marionette's weight, and he was one of the stealthiest dashers seen. Then there was Bonnie's ability to teleport into a room. Though it was limited to only rooms Naruto has been before. That helped him get to the Hokage without finding himself going through Konoha looking lighter than a feather. Toy Bonnie seemed to impart a heightened sense of hearing on par with the Inuzuka. When the clan head had heard Naruto complain about not being used, she and her son Kiba helped him with that one. Freddy's inherent skill was stealth, which added to the speed and weight abilities made Naruto known as the Phantom Prankster from Hell. The ability to hide in shadows was useful in hiding from the mobs when his birthday came around. Toy Freddy's skill was surprisingly enough a almost plastic-like skin that can be turned off at will. It was purely defensive and gave Naruto a better resistance to physical blows. Though fire and lightning get weakened a bit. Fire can damage the skin, but the actual heat doesn't bother Naruto, while the ceramic nature makes it harder to paralyze as it grounds out the shock. Chika's ability was oddly enough the ability to tell if something is wrong with food, making him able to tell that besides the ramen stand he frequents, he was eating nothing but poisoned food. Apparently he built up quite a resistance while the Kyuubi's chakra burned it out of his system. This meant his immune system actually creates antidotes to counter the poisons. Toy Chica's skill was actually a subtle one. It was a better sense of awareness. Vixen's ability was a bit more pronounced. He found he can cling to almost any terrain. Apparently when she was Mangle she traveled by the ceiling. And that ability was transferred over and making him able to actually do the wall walk skill without chakra. All of this they learned trying to see what had changed. Surprisingly, the animatronics had a human form when they come out. Vixen became a silver-haired amber-eyed girl dressed in a white shirt and pink shorts. Sunny was back to the form she had when alive, same with Jack, Andrew and Frederick and his blonde twin Max. Toy Chica looked identical to Sunny but was a few years younger and wore a yellow shirt with pink shorts. Their eyes were still different so they could be told apart. Toy Freddy looked much like the twins but was more pudgy, but in the 5 years he managed to slim down with some muscle. Toy Bonnie looked like a blue-haired green-eyed version of Jack who was the same age as Toy Chica and Toy Freddy. Marionette though was a surprise. His clothes were reminiscent of his animatronic form, being a black jacket with white bands around the arms and black pants with the same bands around the lower legs. His feet were covered by black boots. His black hair was pulled into a ponytail behind his head and he had his usual mask clipped to the pants, revealing his eyes were silver. The toys had decided to go by the names Shine for Toy Chica, Sam for Toy Bonnie, and surprisingly enough Toy Freddy went with Hunter. Vixen shortened her name to Vix to not draw attention to the villagers. Marionette went by the name Shade. Naruto himself still wore the same outfit he wore when he got out of Fazbear Frights, only larger, and clipped to his belt was a scroll holding his 9 animatronic masks. He had found Balloon Boy's head in the box and placed that one on a shelf and put the guitar next to the bed. Jack and Sam taught him how to play it. Surprisingly, the animatronics aged so at this point Vixen and the toys were 11 while the 5 of Jack, Sunny, Frederick, Andrew and Max were 3 years older at 14. Marionette was the oldest at 16. They were well known in Konoha for looking after Naruto. In fact, Marionette actually asked the Hokage to open a mask maker's shop and designed it to have the living quarters on an upper floor. They had frequent customers in the Anbu division for a mask replacement if one of them got destroyed during a mission. Most of the time though it was to design new ones for new members. The Hokage particularly was amused with the mask of a griffin. Marionette was very knowledgeable on myths apparently. Naruto entered the kitchen to find Sunny and Shine both at work making breakfast. Out of the group, the two were the better cooks and were teaching Naruto how to properly cook. "Morning, Naruto," said Shine with a look. "Morning, Shine," said Naruto. "How's our little brother doing right now?" asked Sunny. When Sunny and Shine were seen by the civilians, they thought Shine was Naruto under a henge until the 8-year-old arrived to see Hat was taking them. The resemblance through the blonde hair and the blue eyes made them unsure about Naruto actually being the demon. As such, they were believed to be Naruto's sisters who had found him when Fazbear Frights had burned down. It wasn't actually that far off with how they treated him during that event. So officially Sunny and Shine were known as Uzumaki, while their friends were simply other orphans that just stayed together. That was the cover story the Hokage gave, and when the group was found to have, Chakra taught the marionette to pass as a genin back when he looked 11, just enough to pass the academy a year later, and helped the then 9-year-olds pass. Naruto had entered 2 years early for the academy with the Toys and Vixen. This was the Toys and Vixen's last year at the academy, with Naruto now placed in his age group's class after flunking 2 years. "I feel like after these next 4 years I can graduate. How is Kyuubi handling the change?" said Naruto. One of the surprises they got was that the mindscape in the seal had changed into a replica of all 3 locations mixed together, with the 3 security offices merged to act as the hub. The 2 stages were merged to form Kyuubi's area. The Biju itself had become an animatronic by the change to the seal. Unlike the others, the Kyuubi was still in the shape of a real fox animal, but now looked way more terrifying as an animatronic that Naruto wasn't sure what the fox was thinking of it. "He's actually handling it better than we did when we found ourselves as animatronics. He's actually glad to be able to walk around, as his cage became a collar like Freddy's to give him some form of freedom. He actually said that if ninja puppets were similar to animatronics, they must have been quite a sight back in our time. They were, but between you and me, Kyuubi seems to have taken to Andrew and Vix like they're his kids. Fox instinct or pack, I guess. He seems to think highly of them," said Sunny, dishing out breakfast. "How's Shade handling Jonin's status with you 4 being Chunin? I know that we get by well with the shop," said Naruto. "He's handling it very well. Good thing the old man is letting us not go on missions so we can run the shop until you make genin," said Sunny. "Even then the truth about you guys will come out. Especially with what you can do with your masks on," said Naruto, referring to their ability to become their animatronic selves when they pull out their masks. All of them can do it, even Naruto. Though when he puts on any of the female members' mask, he became a male version of them. From what they gathered from the Hokage was that Springtrap was still out there. This is why that once we have to put on those, we can play it off as a bloodline ability, which according to Kyuubi is true. Max doesn't know what he did to even cause that, said Shine as the others arrived. "So you ready for the academy, you 5? Said Frederick as the current academy students nodded. With that, Jack and Sunny walked the 5 to the academy, where they were going to be helping Naruto's age group class. Naruto seemed to look at a certain point ahead of him. "Hinata's at it again. Why doesn't she just talk to me?" said Naruto. Hinata's Hyuga was a indigo-haired girl with lavender eyes that Naruto saved from some bullies a few years ago, and ever since she had been finding herself shy around him. Shine was the one who learned from Sunny that Hinata seemed to be developing a crush on her little brother. But Naruto was oblivious, but did want to be her friend, but had to wait for her to actually offer because her clan kept chasing him off when he tried to talk to her. Shine was going to have to interfere if this continues. The 5 students went their separate ways, with Sunny and Jack leading Naruto to his class. They entered to find 2 other teachers there. There seemed to be a brown-haired teen with a scar across the nose and a certain white-haired Chunin. Naruto went to take his seat and Hinata took hers. "Hello class, I'm Iruka, this is my friend Mizuki. And joining us is Sunny Uzumaki with her friend Jack. We will be your teachers for the next 4 years," said the brown-haired teen. "Nice to meet you. Each of us will teach one aspect of shinobi to you. I'm handling traps while Jack will handle taijutsu," said Sunny. "Iruka will handle weapons training while Mizuki handles ninjutsu. We will cover the basics as best we can. And be warned, I know a lot about hand-to-hand combat, so get ready," said Jack. "Outside of those we will work together on other skills like stealth," said Iruka. "With that, welcome to the Ninja Academy," said Mizuki. With that, first was taijutsu with Jack. "I know that some of you already know some fighting styles, but for the rest I will give out a demonstration." "Naruto, care to help me out?" said Jack. Sure Jack, said Naruto moving to position. Remember this is a spar so take notes on how your opponent moves and how you move, said Jack moving into Usagi-style martial arts. Naruto moved his stance to that of an unknown style to Iruka and Mizuki. His stance was one leg back with his arms relaxed in a similar position to Jack's, but they noticed that his legs were tensing to react. With both ready they went right into it. Everyone was surprised that Naruto was very speedy and moving as if light as a feather and that Jack was matching it. 3 students were taking close observation. One was of course Hinata. The others were Shikamaru and Shino clan heirs of the Nara and Urubune clans. They noticed that Naruto was not wasting any energy in his moves and that his reaction time was very high. They did note that he seemed to be thinking on the fly, making it hard to predict his moves. Jack, for his credit, was moving much the same way, only he seemed to be hard-pressed to get Naruto where he wanted. After a half hour of punches and kicks they stopped. Definitely going full out Naruto, you're improved by doing as I thought, which is easy to know how to teach, plus you're really getting used to moving without getting yourself high into the air, good, said Jack, surprising the class. After the Fazbear Frights incident, my little brother here found himself to move as light as a feather while still keeping his normal weight. Hit the ceiling just getting out of bed. Took him 3 years to be able to move normally again. This ability is always on. And it's actually taking 30-pound weights to keep him from going as high as Hokage Tower without chakra right now. The weight seems to help him stay grounded. It's only when he moves that the ability affects. Outside forces just act as if he is normal, said Sunny in explanation. Shade has the same problem, only he always had it, so he's helping Naruto deal with it, said Jack. The mask maker over at the Marionette Masquerade store? The one who does both regular masks and supplies Anbu with replacement masks. Dean know that, said Iruka. What's the Fazbear incident? Asked a black-haired boy with a blue shirt and white shorts. This was one Assume Uchiha. You know about the old Fazbear Frights building 5 years back? Well, some idiot trapped Naruto inside for a full week at the mercy of the Fazbear Frights demon. According to the Hokage, the demon was a being known as an animatronic, a sentient ninja puppet without chakra. They were powered by electrical power. They dated back to long before the Sage of Six Paths. This particular animatronic, though, wasn't ordinary. Naruto discovered that the thing had the corpse of a murderer inside it. Apparently the guy had killed over 1,000 people, mostly adults with a small few being kids. Apparently the spirits of the kids haunted the guy enough he hid into a special animatronic suit that had a lock to hold the electronic parts to make room for a person inside, but there was a flaw. If moisture hit the locks they would fail and the electronics would spring back. They would lodge into the body of whoever was wearing the suit, killing them. From what records show, it was raining when this happened. Plus if someone breathed on the locks would make them fail with sudden movements. But this animatronic had the murderer's soul inhabiting the suit that was now permanently attached to the corpse. The result was a type of zombie after so long. Naruto hid in a room of the building and used the animatronic's programming against him by using a recording of a child's voice to divert the thing from his location. But the air conditioning was bad. The air was so thin it caused hallucinations that made surviving harder. There was also a risk of fires starting up. On the Sunday since Naruto was placed in the building, a fire started up and Naruto barely escaped when the Hokage arrived looking for him, as the two of us and some others came across him. The resemblance to Sunny and her little sister Shine was hard to miss. Shine was 3 years older than Naruto when we found him. Ever since we've been helping him with the trauma. But that wasn't the end of that animatronic. It escaped the fire and building and swore to return to kill Naruto before leaving the village. The name it took was Springtrap due to how he died in life. That's why Naruto is as good as he is now. To prepare for that confrontation, said Jack, pointing at Sunny in explanation. It's true, the Hokage told me about the incident alongside most of the ninja forces, so we can be on the lookout. Naruto even provided an image of what Springtrap looks like so we can put out a warning to the other nations, said Iruka, pulling out his copy of the image. God, I didn't want to know this, said Shikamaru, looking at the image scared as chills went down his spine. The event forced me to grow up quickly until we found out the trauma had unlocked some side effects on my body. I think it stems from a bloodline ability and just awoke in fragments. My speed is a good example. Seems my body can mimic traits of animatronics like my skin can harden as a defense, said Naruto as his body seemed to gain a metallic shine as his hair hardened as well. We checked if Shade had the same bloodline. Seems there used to be animatronics as light as cloth puppets. Animatronics were mainly for entertainment purposes, so the fact a murderer turned one into a weapon is terrifying. These animatronics must have inspired Sasori of the Red Sands to create his human puppets. Or more precisely Springtrap's story. It's no secret Fazbear Frights had a well-known reputation back when the founders of our village settled here, said Sunny. The building was older than the forest surrounding the village. So the fact there was a demonic puppet that was alive, you can see that we had to make sure it was never released until some idiot went and caused the thing to get free. It was lucky no one was outside when it fled, said Mizuki. So what other abilities did you get, Naruto, besides that ability? Asked Shino. This, said Naruto, stepping into a shadow and vanished with only his eyes to be seen glowing in the dark. Creepy, commented Iruka, unnerved. Frederick can do the same thing there, so he's better at stealth than Naruto, said Mizuki, remembering teaching that one stealth a few years back. Yeah, so far each of us has a ability in common, with Naruto making the possibility of us being actually family somewhat true. I can tell if there is something off with what I eat, making me able to avoid poison. Shine has an uncanny sense of awareness. You saw Frederick's, Hunter's, Andrew's, and Shade's abilities. Jack here can teleport to locations he has been to, and Max, we don't know his ability. Sam has high hearing on par with the Inuzuka, and Vix can walk on most surfaces without chakra. Pretty much these are geared to survival, said Sunny. Anyway, back to the lessons. I want all but Naruto to spar so I can gauge your skills and see where you need improvement, said Jack. With that, the day went by with the students learning about more of their body than they thought. Sunny pointed out to Hinata that she was too flexible for her family styles and suggested having a word with her father about that. And for 4 years Naruto and his class kept improving, but the civilian council was starting to be a pain in the neck to the animatronics concerning Naruto. No, you can't order us around, we are directly under the Hokage's orders, not yours. If you try and force us away from Naruto, then be prepared for retaliation. Did you know that pulling pranks actually teaches good trap-making skills? Us Uzumaki are well known for being tricksters. And if I remember history right, wasn't Senju Hiroshima the first Hokage married to a Uzumaki Mito? Now get away from our store, said Shade, glaring at them. You don't have any proof that you are Uzumaki. They were renowned for their sealing arts, said a certain pink-haired counselor. That just made Shade mad. Moving glowing fingers into a pattern, the hidden animatronic wove a seal in the air, and once it was complete he snapped his fingers. Fuin. Puppeteer nightmare, said Shade with cold fury clear in his voice. To everyone the seal pulsed before the air itself was gathered, and as pressure built it froze into ice from the temp. Soon the construct shaped itself into a nightmarish version of Shade's true form made out of ice. A resounding face palm was heard from the just arriving third Hokage. When will civilians learn not to provoke founding clans before finding themselves faced with something that can and will kill them? Us ninja may protect you but annoy us too far, and you will find yourselves facing what Kiri is facing with the Civil War, only in reverse, said Sarutobi, clearly thinking the civilian council was complete idiots and fools if this scene was any indication. By the paling of the civilians they caught the gist and fled, letting Shade dismiss his technique. Impressive way of making seals, Shade. How did you do it, if I may ask, said the Hokage, curious. Similar principle as the chakra chains. As I wrote the seal I made the chakra solid as I projected it. Downside, it's hard to keep it from falling in the air, so I have to use my natural wind nature to keep it there. Considering I'm light despite not looking like it or even affected unless I move, that's a bit of a no-brainer. Simply because after a while I figured out I was subconsciously using wind chakra when I move, making me effectively float like a puppet of cloth when I move. Trust me, I am still trying to figure out why it doesn't affect me when wind is used against me, as if I wasn't floating like cloth. Naruto thinks as I subconsciously use my nature, I simultaneously seem to also use it to negate the chakra of the opposing attacks, to where it's just wind and not chakra enhanced, so just a breeze or gust in some cases. So far it makes the most sense, said Shade, and after a talk a few years back with the Kyuubi they learned that was the case, as when in human form they did gain human bodies, but as they returned to true animatronics with their mask they gained back their real traits. Explains why you gained the nickname the Wraith when on missions and got into the bingo book, mused Sarutobi with a grin. Shine and Sunny did have to have an intervention with Hinata and apparently Vixen, who was it turned out only 2 years younger than Naruto, revealed by Kyuubi. With Vixen jumping grades to Naruto's class, the trio had become a bit inseparable. Sunny and Shine, known as the Sunshine Sisters due to their names, quickly had a talk with the two girls and made sure Hinata actually got to know Naruto with Vixen's help. The white and pink-haired animatronic turned human had decided to go by the last name of Tomiko. It turned out Vixen had fallen in love with Naruto as a person through the years and was encouraged to follow her heart by the Kyuubi itself. Sunny was right, the Biju did think of the fox animatronics as its kids. But at the moment the trio was still at the point of friendship. Sasuke was being a bit annoying in taking an unhealthy interest in Vixen, with Kiba doing the same with Hinata, only for both to find opposition in the rest of Naruto's group, mainly the other animatronics. The others were still active ninja and when out of the village was keeping an eye out for Springtrap. But one by one they slowly kept getting injured to the point they had to retire from missions and the ninja ranks. When getting healed by returning to the seal and coming back out like the damage never happened was starting to get suspicious by everyone's standards. The only ones left active was Shade, Max and Sunny respectively, with Vixen still in the academy. Shade still ran the shop, and seeing as he was a puppet in the past, it did make sense he would take to mask making. Max and Sunny still worked at the academy, so they were the main people to stop Kiba and Sasuke from disrupting the class. With everyone else officially retired, they helped out in the shop while teaching Naruto what they learned from the seal. Naruto and Vixen were trying their best to help Hinata with her confidence issues. At this time Vixen recalled the Cloud incident and her role in it. Flashback. Hyuga clan compound. Naruto, having just been kicked out of the orphanage, was asleep up in a tree while Vixen was out of the seal looking over the mask that was her actual head, being altered much like a Anbu mask, so it was just the front half leaving the bottom jaw missing. It was interesting for the group to look into why the masks were made and why they allowed the group to return to their animatronic forms. Kyuubi, or as Vixen and Jack was told his name was Kurama in secret, had revealed that the masks was actually part of the seal and that when they joined him in the seal their animatronic abilities was placed in it while their minds was able to leave the seal with their own bodies. In the case of the twins, Sunny, Jack and Max, they were revived with their former prisons becoming part of them in the form of their masks. She was looking over the mask using the chakra she gained in her new body to examine its properties. It was through this did Vixen learn her mask was connected to her soul, and she decided to call them the soul masks for that reason. She was snapped out of her thoughts by a commotion not far away. Jumping in the direction it came from, her then childlike body encountered the form of what looked to be a kidnapper with Hinata bound in his grasp. The ninja was surprised to find the then kid with such unique hair and eyes, but Vixen, on realizing what she stumbled at, felt her programming of protecting kids kick in as her anger built up. She started to growl as she reached for her mask, unaware that her hair started becoming 9 tendrils of hair, not unlike Naruto's mother, is what Kyuubi would tell her later said about it. Hinata was watching with wide eyes as once the mask was put on it seemed to Saint reach and covered Vixen's head before the white-haired kid started to transform visibly to her animatronic self as her body rippled like water, first becoming a chibified version of her animatronic self, FNAF World Toy Foxy, before starting to grow from cute fox kid to her full size and more terrifying scary fox girl. Her eyes was fully black with a white pinprick as the iris, freezing the kidnapper in fright. With the classic animatronic screech she leapt at the kidnapper and gave him a right hook, making him let go of Hinata, while Vixen used her other arm to grab her and move back, placing her in a hidden area and settled in a defensive stance before the young child. For the next few moments she defended against the kidnapper while making sure he doesn't get at Hinata again. Suddenly the kidnapper was killed by a kunai while another just bounced off her animatronic shell. Looking up she glared at Hiyashi, who looked a bit shocked from what his Byakugan was seeing. Instead of the chakra network he saw the endoskeleton and mechanical parts, but the way the being moved suggested it was actually alive. He became even more shocked when it moved into a defensive position before his daughter. "Get away from my daughter," he said, moving into the traditional Juken stance, though was worried if it would actually work if the brain didn't have chakra at all. Immediately the fox-like being blinked and relaxed. "You're her parent? I am relieved you arrived when I saw the kidnapper. My programming kicked in. My programming is to protect young children, so I didn't really think about much besides protecting this child once I got her away from him." "Make sure this doesn't happen again. I can't be around if it happens again," said Vixen before vanishing back to the seal on Naruto, leaving Hiyashi confused while Hinata had a awestruck look on her face. Later in life she would make a plush fox resembling her female savior alongside a Naruto plush showing her admiration and also a sign of her new love of foxes in general, which after meeting Naruto after he saved her from bullies and noted how he resembled a fox with his smile plus his whisper marks was what drawn her to him in the first place. End flashback. That was before the trio entered the academy, so Hinata didn't exactly remember Vixen was the one who saved her from the Cloud Ninja, which resulted in her uncle dying and her cousin to hate her. The hair and eyes did spark some familiarity in Hinata, but it was what made her reach out to Vixen first before Naruto. It was a frequent sight to see Hinata visit Marionette Masquerade with Vixen and Naruto when they help out the shop during days off the academy. Hinata even got a mask from the shop in secret, being an indigo mask of a fox with a white crescent moon on the forehead in the same style as Vixen's own. The eye holes were covered with a black film on the inside to hide her eyes so she could use her bloodline without any opponents knowing. The only one who knew about the mask was Hanabi, Hinata's younger sister, who bought a mask as well from the shop, being a white rabbit mask with a fire symbol on the forehead. Like Hinata's, it also had the film at the eye holes, but both sisters never wore their masks, feeling something telling them not to put them on until the time was right. It was now time for the graduation exam for Naruto's class, and after the written exam wherein the Seal Jack helped Naruto with due to his learn by doing curve makes written tests a bit hard for Naruto, which the animatronics seemed to notice every bit of sabotage exempt for written tests, so it wasn't until they noticed Naruto kept getting high-level tests did they re-give the proper tests at his home and turn them in after letting Iruka know. He allowed it but was surprised that when he looked over the high-level tests Naruto kept getting in his classes, he got most of them right in slightly unorthodox ways. Jack told Iruka that as Naruto was a prankster, pranks could be his way of trap training, and if the prank supplies was substituted for ninja tools, Iruka could see that it was effective and can be applied in normal ninja situations based on physics. Naruto did plan out his pranks, and while the animatronics did curb most of his hyperactivity in terms of his learn by doing classes, even they couldn't stop Naruto from becoming the prankster king of Konoha when he felt he needed to let off some steam, which ended up training his stealth, and it was a frequent sight to see Naruto outrun Anbu, much to the animatronics' amusement. Ironically, this also trains the Anbu in their skills whenever Naruto manages to prank them. Max had noted to Iruka after the 10th Anbu chase, and when it was revealed by Neiko that she had caught on to that as she passed by during the chase, both the hidden animatronic and teacher had a what the hell expression on their faces once they processed that. Needless to say, the Anbu, once they caught on to the surprise training they were getting out of chasing Naruto, had a very high opinion of him but was still annoyed he could manage to hide and outrun from them, who was supposed to be the elite forces, which said a lot about his stealth even if he had only worn the dreaded orange jumpsuit when he pulled a prank. When asked why he wore such a eye-catching color by Iruka after the Chunin seemed to be the only one able to catch him after a prank, Naruto gave the sound reasoning that if he can be able to be stealthy in a bright color like orange, he was going to be very hard to even be noticed on stealth missions, and to the surprise of Iruka and the rest of the academy except Max, it was true. Whenever stealth classes happened, Naruto was the best, being unable to be spotted during them even when he had chakra seals binding his abilities he got from the animatronics so as to give the other students a fair chance. Iruka had to admit even then Naruto was unpredictable even when his actions make sense. After Naruto explained his stealth practice theory, the second best at stealth went to Sakura Haruno, whose pink hair made her more easy to spot with her red dress. So both passed the stealth exams better than Sasuke Uchiha, much to his ire even if Sakura was his fangirl. In the seal everyone but Max, Sunny and Vixen was amused as today the shop was busy getting resupplied on material and getting replacement tools, so it was closed until the genin teams were made. So they were watching Naruto from in the seal with Kurama, if even only Vixen and Jack knew his name. Soon enough it was time for the final portion of the graduation exam. The Academy 3 Basic Jutsu. Naruto passed Henge and Kiwami. But on the clones he just couldn't make a decent clone. "I am sorry Naruto, but you failed. If you can't make a decent clone then I'm afraid you can't be a ninja," said Iruka. "I know that, Iruka. My problem is I have way too much chakra thanks to my Uzumaki genes, but the academy graduation rules clearly stated only the basic academy jutsu including regular clones was needed to pass. I could have substituted with a higher level clone technique, but I don't know the hand seals for them, so it looks like I'm out of luck there. I did pretty well on everything else, but clones don't look to be my strong suit, sighed Naruto. He's right, the Uzumaki clan is well known for having incredibly dense chakra, making them very potent. It was why it took 3 hidden villages to take down Uzu no Kuni back during the Third War, said Max, annoyed he only got that info by asking the Hokage, who was disturbed the history was not in the academy, as if someone didn't want any info on the Uzumaki clan to known. Unknown to everyone, Sakura's mother and a certain Uchiha traitor responsible for the Kyuubi attack sneezed at the same time, but for different reasons. Where did you hear that? Asked Mizuki, confused. I asked the Hokage. You know those swirls on the back of the Chunin vests are actually the Uzumaki clan symbol placed there to honor the Uzumaki clan, as the first Hokage was in fact married to a Uzumaki Mito. The hidden Whirlpool village was a sister village to Konoha and helped found the village with their cousins the Senju and the Uchiha. Even if it was a distant relation by marriage, the clan were renowned for their seals and their massive chakra. The clan got scattered with the few survivors, and even the Crimson Death was a member of that clan. I figured out she must be Naruto's mother, as she died the same day he was born. I know her last name is Uzumaki, but I can't locate her first name, which, like the rest of the history of the Uzumaki clan, has been removed, much to the worry of the Hokage. Someone must really don't like the Uzumaki if they went to all that trouble to remove even a trace of them, said Max deadpan. Again, but Sakura's mother sneezed at the same time as a certain Uchiha, this time for the same reason, making them wonder if they caught a cold. That makes a lot of sense. If the Hokage knows about such history, having lived it, it must be true. Might explain why he looks out for Naruto so much. He feels like he has a debt to the Uzumaki clan and is trying to repay it by making sure Naruto survives, said Haruka after thinking on it quite a bit. That, and also because he wouldn't live with himself if when he goes to the afterlife he would have to answer to the Crimson Death herself, which I feel is a scary thought. She was a ranked legend after all, said Max with a shudder, which Mizuki and Haruka mimicked, thinking of that legend. Explains why Naruto has a sword. He must have got drawn to them from his mother's influence while she carried him, said Haruka, as Naruto still had the sword from that fateful week and wasn't seen without it, which unknowingly the Kyuubi had soul-bound it, much like the soul masks were to the animatronics. Naruto soon listened with Vixen hidden on a nearby building as the other families congratulated their kids while expressing their joy. Naruto wasn't a ninja. Frederick was hidden in the shadows, glaring at the families, thinking up some nasty pranks to pull on them. The fox animatronics and Naruto plus the rabbit animatronics were not the only pranksters of their group. Everyone was a prankster, but the foxes and rabbits were the most often ones of the group to pull a prank. Just then Mizuki came by and told Naruto to come with him. He told Naruto about a hidden exam to prove he had what it took to graduate, but once Naruto left he laughed. I can't believe he fell for it. I may not have managed to kill him by driving him to Fazbear Frights, but this time he is going to get what the little demon deserves, Mizuki said, giving a expression Frederick had seen once before. The same look as the murderer who killed him and his friends in the past. He shared a look with Vixen and both vanished, but unknowingly Hinata had also overheard and ran off to warn Naruto. For some reason she kept her mask on her person in her jacket. Later that night Naruto snuck in the Hokage tower and using henge, which he learned wasn't an illusion for him but a real transformation, which Kyuubi had explained was due to his kitsune nature, as most kitsune tended to be female, had the habit of tricking people with a human form. When the sage created Kyuubi he had used a nearby kitsune as the base template, so he took on the same traits as the kitsune. He had become a generic secretary with some files, looking to do some late-night paperwork. It's pathetic how the ninja around the tower fell for that image. Naruto did get spotted by the Hokage once he got the scroll, but with a quick henge of his joke jutsu for infiltration into Naruto, the Hokage was knocked out with a nosebleed, and Naruto gave the old man a frown, not having liked using the jutsu to basically turn himself into what could have been his sister before he left the tower heading to where Mizuki told him to go. Sitting down he opened the scroll and found Kage Bunsen, or the Shadow Clones technique. He learned it could be used to scout and is also good for training due to ability to transfer memories it made back to the user when dispelled. Solid to so major bonus for Naruto, who had a clone look over other notice jutsu like a fox summon contract, which was added after the Kyuubi attack in order to protect it, which Naruto took, finding it seemed to fit him. other clone jutsu like shuriken or kunai shadow clones, and even developed one for his sword based on the principle of the two techniques. Eventually Naruto found the seal used to bind Kyuubi, which made Naruto surprised at how complex it was. Well, that explains a lot on why I was able to bring all of us into here, because as we were technically already dead or moved on, we didn't have any actual form, so when I pulled us to the seal I pretty much made you our anchor, Naruto, said Max, surprised. In other words, you have become a dimensional focal point, Naruto. Since that Fazbear Frights area was both another dimension as well as a temporal flux, you practically had the 9 animatronics become real beings through you, said Kyuubi in Naruto's mind. And there was also another animatronic that was created by that card, and it was looking at the memory of what Naruto looked like before it reached out a hand to touch it. Around this time Iruka and Hinata both found Naruto having focused on mastering Kage Bushin. As Naruto told Iruka what Mizuki told him, Hinata spotted Mizuki arrive just as he finished telling Naruto about the Kyuubi. The blonde gave him a deadpan expression. Wow, you're a idiot. I knew about the fox since the Fazbear Frights incident. He's not so bad once you get to know him. Besides, I'm not the fox. I'm actually lucky Frederick warned me about this while Vix told the old man we actually set a trap for you, said Naruto as every one of the animatronics in human form appeared next to Naruto with Sunny tending to Iruka's injuries. Suddenly a white light exited Naruto's seal and formed what looked to be a Hanabi-aged Naruto with red, yellow hair, dressed in a black shirt and jeans with a blue jacket. What the was everyone's thoughts as they stared at the little girl who seemed to smile at Naruto. Big brother, it's finally nice to meet you, said the girl with a voice similar to Naruto's own, just younger and feminine. What just happened? Asked Iruka, having a what the heck expression. Wait, was she the animatronic from that card that got dragged in the seal with us, Max? Asked Sunny, blinking. Must be that one hadn't moved from all this time in the seal except for when Naruto hanged into his female self. I think she had a connection to that transformation and became her own person, said Max in agreement. Wait, so she is Naruto? Explains why half the time I use the just you I can't remember what I did as her, because those times I must have let her in control of the body, said Naruto, confused. The fire-headed girl nodded. That's exactly it, brother, but for now let's get rid of this guy. He reminds me too much of your memories of Springtrap, said Naruto, glaring at Mizuki, who was plain confused on what was happening. Wait, what did you nine mean about getting dragged into the Kyuubi's seal? Asked Iruka, confused. The 10 animatronics shared a look. Because 5 of us were victims of Springtrap, we wanted the Fazbear Frights place as animatronics, and Naruto befriended us and accidentally brought the other 4 to life. Naruto here was born when Naruto defeated phantom versions of us created by Springtrap, with parts from them becoming a card that was dragged into the seal with us while Naruto escaped the distortion inside the building. To you a week had went by, but to Naruto 3 weeks had passed. The seal dragged the 9 of us into the seal, as technically we counted as dead. In a way we were reincarnated by that seal, explained Max. Each one pulled out their soul masks and put them on. Hinata watched shocked as Vixen became her savior from so long ago. She couldn't let her friends get attacked by a now known traitor animatronic or not. Her mask fell out of her coat and she barely caught it, and she didn't know why, but she placed it on, feeling the time was right for her. As the 10 animatronics stood in their true forms, Naruto's animatronic form was different from the blank animatronic she used to be, now resembling a dragon female humanoid with her hair, and her coloration was her clothes, which was now her scales. Growing from her back was a pair of bat-like wings as a dragonic tail waved behind her. Mizuki was nervous as he realized he was outnumbered, as Naruto also did Kage Bushin, creating 99 clones which filled up the forest. Suddenly a blur launched out of the trees and kicked Mizuki, making everyone wide-eyed. It was an indigo blue female fox animatronic with familiar lilac eyes and had a crescent moon on the forehead matching the muzzle and underbelly of her fur. A foxtail waved behind her as she flipped to stand next to Naruto, a growl in her throat at Mizuki. Hinata. But how? Said Marionette, shocked, having recognized the head of the animatronic as the mask he sold to her. I don't know why my mask works like yours, but I won't let him hurt my friends. I don't care if Naruto holds Kyuubi, he has been there when I needed help, so I'm going to do my best to return the favor, said Hinata, not taking her eyes off Mizuki. With that said, everyone but Iruka shot forward to attack Mizuki, and the animatronic screech on chorus was heard through the night, and Naruto looked slightly green as Mizuki's limbs was stuffed in a spare Freddy animatronic suit. "Where do you guys get the suits? Last I checked they were destroyed in Fazbear Frights," asked Naruto, looking at everyone curious. "We honestly don't know your memories, perhaps considering your mindscape is pretty much the location of the Fazbear establishments combined, it may be possible for us to pull out the suits from there," said Max with a shrug. "Well, with his limbs destroyed he won't be able to be a threat in the future, but still that was overkill, you guys," said Naruto as they took off their masks, becoming their human forms. Shade had to teach Hinata how to revert to human form without just taking off the mask to reveal the endoskeleton of her animatronic form. As animatronics we don't have chakra, but we do have a kind of sense. When we try to remove a part of our suit, there should be a kind of barrier between the animatronic mask and a mental image of your human self. As you pull, imagine you're pulling the animatronic mask away from your human self. It's hard to explain, but intent is a large factor in it," said Shade, and Hinata did so back to normal, which was a relief. She thought she would be stuck like that for the rest of her life. She found she didn't actually hate her animatronic self, as it was like part of her that she didn't know existed. She didn't mind being in the form again. "Naruto, come here," said Iruka, and after instructing Naruto to close his eyes, switched his goggles with his own headband and smiled at Naruto with a proud smile. "Congratulations Naruto, you graduated," said Iruka with a smile. Sunny shook her head. "Iruka, please keep us being animatronics secret. If people find out we aren't really related to Naruto, it could be bad with the civilian council. We managed to keep them at bay thanks to Marionette here, but they may try again if they learn the truth. So far Naruto is truly related to Naruto from what we can tell. Me, Max, Frederick, Jack and Andrew were the kids murdered by Springtrap. Thanks to the temporal flux we pretty much didn't age in the animatronics we became, as we were pretty much repeating the same week without knowing until Naruto got us aware as we joined him into the next location in the place's history. Basically Naruto had to live through important events in the Fazbear history, with there being 3 locations, 1 per week he spent trapped in there," said Sunny, giving him a stern look. "Sunny, you went into mother hen mode again," said Jack with an eye roll. "She and Shine pretty much are the sister figures of the group, treating me like a sibling, and I can guess Naruto will feel the same treatment now," said Naruto in explanation to Hinata and Iruka. "Yep, it's kind of an inside joke between us whenever they act like that. Vixen here, or as she used to be known as Mangle, and Shine plus Sam and Hunter with Shade gained a soul when Naruto met them, so technically Vixen is 2 years younger than Naruto while the other 3 are a few years older than Naruto by their guess. It has to do with the order of when we used to be just animatronics. Hunter was first with me and Shine for 3 years, then came Shade, then finally Vixen arrived a few months after Shade, who was usually called Marionette or the puppet. People got confused on his gender a lot, so they called him by those 2 names, said Sam. I am actually a girl, I just like looking like a boy, said Shade, making everyone look shocked, and then everyone backed away a bit from the revealed girl, a bit freaked out. They couldn't tell. Considering how you mumble most of the time with your voice, it sounded quite a lot like a male voice, so we thought you were a guy, so you can't blame us for making that mistake, said Sam, embarrassed. Made for a good long-term prank. At least I'm surprised at how no one even caught on I was a girl except that snake user with purple hair who tries to drag me to the hot springs and take a break from the shop, said Shade with a small grin. You mean the snake Anbu who seems to have a crush on Iruka and was the Anbu who actually tries to help me during my birthdays and even helped me prank some of those idiots, asked Naruto, which Shade nodded in agreement. That would be Anko Mitrashi, and she would be the only one in the village who has had as much a hard life as Naruto. Wait, she has a crush on me? Said Iruka, and we now see where Naruto got his dense attitude to romance from if the animatronics never impacted his life. He had to been influenced by the people he trusts, as he didn't have a family after all. Hinata moved to Vixen with a hug. I never did thank you for helping me from that cloud incident, said Hinata with a grin. It was just what I had to do, as animatronics had a built in order to protect children from danger, as we were built to entertain them, so we also had to protect them just in case. It was our job to watch over them while their parents were busy, but Springtrap really gave us a bad name. I was also pretty much jaded by then. I used to be a take apart and put back together attraction, and toddlers were not exactly able to get me right. I was pretty much mangled and damaged, making me more of a danger than I should. Until Naruto managed to repair me and restore me to normal after seeing himself in me after how he lived for the first 3 years of his life. It was that connection that got me fully alive in that place, said Vixen, embarrassed by the praise she got. Still, thanks, you probably saved me from becoming a slave to Cloud. Besides, at least if it wasn't for Naruto meeting you, I would never have got to meet you at all. From then you kinda inspired me after the incident, which was why I got the mask, as it reminded me of you, said Hinata with a smile. Stammered Vixen, clearly at a loss for words. Naruto unfortunately missed the conversation there, showing he did pick up the dense attitude from Haruka, much to the others' amusement, as they helped get the scroll of seals back to the Hokage while Mizuki was taken to a hospital to get treatment before getting sent to jail. So with that odd day now behind them, their journey as ninja would start soon.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.